And don't forget, their Cardlock location is accessible 24 hours for your convenience. B&A Petroleum. Fuel you once, fuel you forever.
Act fast when wildlife damage happens. Don't wait. Delaying may impact your claim. All Saskatchewan producers may be eligible to receive funding for both preventative measures and wildlife damage concerns. To learn more about wildlife damage prevention and compensation options, contact your local SCIC office or call 1-888-935-0000. SCIC. Here at every turn.
Broadcasting from Century Studios in downtown Regina, Harvard Media presents the all-new Sportscage, where Saskatchewan comes to talk local sports. Brought to you by Kellen Solar. 35 years of experience moving water from a dugout or well without electricity. Visit KELLNsolar.com to find out more for your livestock operation. Be a part of the show. Call 1-866-767-0620 or text 306-936-6262. The all-new Sportscage. Streaming at sportscage.com and on the radio at 620 CKRM.
Hope you had a great weekend. Welcome to the Monday edition of the all-new Sports Cage. I got a text about 9:30 last night from Barney saying, I think I'm coming down with something. I may not be able to go on Monday. Can we get you off the bench and come in? It's Maz. Barney is he on the one-game injured list for today, or is it the physically unable to perform list? We'll get clarification on that. We're going to be talking sports for the next 3 hours here in Saskatchewan. We're live on the radio at 620 CKRM, and we're also streaming. You can watch the show on X and at YouTube. If you want to grab a link for that, you can just go to our website. It's sportscage.com. And the show today is brought to you by Kellen Solar. Big news out of Rider Nation this afternoon. It came down about 40 minutes ago. The Saskatchewan Roughriders have signed Jameer Thurman to a 2-year contract extension. And I have been saying ever since the season ended that the most important free agent that the Riders would need to sign, even more important than quarterback, whoever that was going to be, was Jameer Thurman, because he's the key to that defense. And one of the reasons why they played so well under first-year head coach Corey Mace is because what Jameer Thurman brings to this football team. So not only do they re-sign him, but you have to love, it's not a 1-year, it's a 2-year extension. He's 29 years old. He'll be 31 when that is up. And if he keeps going the way he does, there's nothing to say that he wouldn't keep playing beyond that. So Jameer Thurman locked up, Riders 2-year contract extension. And this is on the heels of what's already been a good day in Rider Nation. Malik Carney has signed a 1-year extension. The defensive end is re-upped for another year with the team. And I think a lot of us had high expectations when Malik Carney was signed last year during free agency for the work that he did in Hamilton. I think it took him about a third of the season to get comfortable in Corey Mace's system. And then in the final 2/3, you really saw that player emerge that we saw in Hamilton. Because a lot of us wanted to see that right from game one. But it didn't happen. But eventually it did. And he played great down the stretch and into the playoffs. So it's a good day in Riderville. One of our guests, Rob Vanstone, who's going to be on the show here in just a couple minutes, we're going to chat about that and a whole bunch more. I want to find out when we chat with Darian Durant at about 5 this afternoon for Double Talk. Jake Mayer, in his press conference last week, said all of the right things about coming to Rider Nation, what it's going to be like to play in front of the green and white and all the fans. But does he have really any idea of what he is signed up for? We know Darian would have firsthand experience with that. So we'll do that after 5. And it's Monday, so that means we'll go inside the NHL with Eric Francis for Southie Mainline Chrysler. That will happen just after 4 o'clock. And as always, we'd love for you to be part of the show. You can always call us or text us, 306-936-6262. What's on your mind? Do you like what the Riders have done so far today? Are you disappointed with the NFL games this weekend? If you are, you're not the only one, because the NFL wildcard weekend really wasn't all that wild. The teams that were supposed to win won, and most of the games weren't even close. It wasn't great TV, that's for sure. And I know a lot of you, if you had money or you're betting the game, you stuck around and you were watching because you wanted to see, because, you know, there's potential winnings. The only game that was remotely interesting was Washington-Tampa Bay last night. Other than that, the other 4 games, they were over, and they were over early. I've been saying this for years, and you really see it show up in the wild card round of the playoffs, that there are levels in the NFL. At least 3, if not 4. And it's not good. You've always got that bottom quarter or third of teams, the awful, like always 3 to 4 win teams. And then it's the murky middle. And the NFL does this real well. Anybody that is 5 to 9-ish wins, they get lost in that middle ground. And then there's the 10-plus win teams, which normally are the upper echelon, despite the Pittsburgh Steelers. Ugh, that was not a good game. And it seems like the murky middle, if they kind of do sneak in the wild card round, they can never beat the top tier. And with the lack of upsets in the wild card round this weekend, is it even worth playing? Because the games weren't good. Should they just go straight to divisional and wrap up the season sooner? They won't, because that's huge revenue that they would give up. But some of those games, the Houston Texans beat the LA Chargers 32-12. If you would have gone on just the first quarter alone, the LA Chargers looked great. And I figured, wow, Jim Harbaugh, or John. I always get confused. Anyways, he had the charge. They look great. But then Justin Herbert fell apart. So Justin Herbert in the regular season only threw 3 interceptions the whole year. He threw 4 in one game. One of them, not his fault, but the other 3 were. And he looked terrible. And then the Texans defense came to play. They got a good defense, and they got dominated. A lot of people were wondering about Houston because they started 5-1, and then they fell apart. And they're like, well, can they get it together? But DeMeco Ryans is a good coach. And then they came through and they played well. I don't know how it's going to be this weekend when they take on the Kansas City Chiefs. Baltimore, as expected, beat the Pittsburgh Steelers 28-14. And this is the game that got a lot of social media attention because people are, if you're a Steelers fan, you're mad. You're mad at everything. The Ravens were dominant. Lamar Jackson, as advertised, MVP-ish, and so was Derrick Henry. So when they flashed the stat with about 6 minutes to go in the third quarter, that the Ravens had over 250 yards rushing with 6 minutes left to go in the third quarter, the Steeler defense needs to take the blame on this one. A lot of people blaming Mike Tomlin and Russell Wilson. Yeah, Wilson didn't really do anything till the second half or whatever, but he played okay. Mike Tomlin, that's his 8th straight playoff game loss. The fans are mad. They're calling for everybody's head. But there's some high-paid guys on defense like TJ Watt that just didn't show up. I think there was a stat out there, Colson, maybe you have to fact this. I think 196 plays have gone by, regular season and playoffs, that TJ Watt has not been involved in anything. Not a tackle, not a disruption, not a knockdown, not a sack, he's pretty much gone 0 for. And you'd think he lines up less than a yard off the ball. How can he not be involved in any of the plays? There's some good, Kyle Brandt from the NFL Network, we'll get to it later in the show, does a great breakdown of what he thinks the problem is in Pittsburgh. The Bills beat the Broncos 31-7. The Bills look like a complete team. What can you say about Josh Allen? He has to win a Super Bowl, or it's another wasted season. For him to cement his legacy, because Patrick Mahomes has the Super Bowls. For Josh Allen, and I like Josh Allen, I would love to see Buffalo win, but they're going to have to finally win the big one for people to take them seriously and for him to get the proper respect that he deserves. Because all of this regular season success doesn't mean anything without the Super Bowl. The Eagles and Jalen Hurts beat the Packers 22-10. It was Hurts' first game in the last, he's been out for the last 3. He looked a little rusty. The Packers didn't look great, but the Eagles weren't able to put him away. Saquon Barkley looked dominant. A lot of people. So the most bet on thing yesterday in the NFL gambling was a Saquon Barkley anytime touchdown. And he had a chance to score, but he went down so they could kill clock. He said it would have been irresponsible and he didn't want guys getting hurt and all of that. There's so many people that are mad because of that. But they win, and that's not a surprise. A.J. Brown, did you guys see this? Looking disinterested on the sidelines. He was reading a book. He had 1 catch for 10 yards. It's nuts. And and if you're wondering, well, what book? I saw this on Twitter. It's a self-motivation book. Like it's all about positivity or whatever. So it's not like he's reading a Daniel Smith romance novel or something like Daniel Steele. Daniel Smith
by Jim Murphy.
Yeah, I was going to say Daniel Smith's the premier of Alberta. Daniel Steele writes romance novels. The only game that was remotely interesting, and Colson, I don't know if you guys watched this, it was the Tampa-Washington game, and the reason why they're tied at 20, time is running out, and it was a last-second doink field goal from Zane Gonzalez, who gave rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels and the Commanders their first playoff win in 20 years, 6,945 days to be exact, since their last playoff win. Do we have this ready to go? So this is what it sounded like. This is the Washington Commanders radio play-by-play crew when the kick was about to go down.
Gonzalez looking to send Washington into the divisional round. Snap good, hold down, kick on its way. It is good! The Cardiac Commanders are the clutch Commanders! They do it again! We'll see you in Detroit!
And Zane Gonzalez kicks in the door and kicks us into the second round of the playoffs!
You got to love that. I mean, look at that. That's good. To me, there's whether it's in hockey or it's in football, I think sometimes a curse is to be drafted number 1 overall and all the pressure that goes along with it. Jaden Daniels at number 2 last year in the draft. A lot of people, there's people that are saying in the Commanders organization, they were never going to take Caleb Williams anyways, even if they had the number 1 pick. They got their guy. And it's a brilliant move now, the way that this looks with Jaden Daniels and how well he played. Alan Colson, they didn't punt during the whole game. Washington did not punt once at all. Like, that's how good he was. And then getting the clutch first down near the end of the game there, it's something special.
Yeah, I saw there was no punts, no turnovers, and there's only been one rookie to do that, and it's Jaden Daniels, and he's done it 3 times this year, twice in the regular season and once in the playoffs. No punts, no turnovers. And Caleb Williams was the one who texted his punter saying, "You're not going to be active very much this year." No, wrong guy.
I know. Wild card weekend wraps tonight with the LA Rams hosting the Minnesota Vikings at State Farm Stadium in Arizona. The Vikings are favored by 2.5 points. You never know what is going to happen because it is an off-site game. Minnesota Viking fans travel well. There are a lot of people that winter in Arizona. Tickets, I guess, online have been incredibly cheap, $40 to $50, because this was unexpected. This was only announced, 5 days ago that this was happening. So I'm sure it'll be full. But what Minnesota Viking teams is going to show up? The dominant Sam Darnold Vikings, or is it going to be the nervous, can't make a throw on third down that played the Detroit Lions Minnesota Vikings? Because the Rams are playing with house money. No one expected them to be here, and Sean McVay in a 1-game playoff all day long. That'll kick off after 6 o'clock tonight. We do know that onto the divisional round. Saturday, Texans at Chiefs. Then the Commanders and Lions. Sunday, it's the Vikings or Rams at the Eagles, and it's going to be in the Ravens and Bills. And I'll ask you this. The Ravens-Bills game, does that not seem like a little bit of a Super Bowl preview that basically whatever team wins that game could be your Super Bowl champion, because that could be the hardest matchup that they face going through it? Not to say that Kansas City's going to be a cakewalk, but the Ravens and the Bills are the 2 best teams, and that they're meeting early, to me, that could be the game of the NFL playoffs.
I can agree to that.
Yeah.
They're both just so dominant right now.
And look good. And the thing is, the Ravens before were one-dimensional. They didn't have a running game. They had some decent running backs. But now with Derrick Henry, it's a legit threat. And with Lamar Jackson, he's always been a threat to run, but now you got to worry about that and his arms and Josh Allen. So I think a lot of us are hoping that this weekend's games will be more entertaining than this past weekend's games. Because outside of that game last night, pretty much everything else was a dud. These games were over in the first quarter or early in the second quarter, and there was just no hope. Like, you knew when Green Bay fumbled the opening kickoff that for whatever reason, they're not beating Philadelphia. And there were no points scored yet, but it was just going to be a tough game because that Philly defense is so good, no matter how much the Philly offense bumbled and stumbled.
Yeah.
It's a good thing I wasn't betting on that Saquon Barkley thing, because I probably would have lost my mind that anytime touchdown. But it was millions of dollars that was wagered on a Saquon Barkley, because he's been the most dominant running back in the NFL this year outside of Derrick Henry. All right, it's time to take a break. It's a busy show. We're hoping to have Rob Vanstone from the Saskatchewan Roughriders join us. We're going to talk all things. Look, there's so much news coming out of Rider Nation today. If you missed it, there's a couple of free agent signings we'll get to. We'll do that on the other side of the break. And also, it's Monday. That means we go inside the NHL with Eric Francis, and that will happen just after 4 o'clock for Saudi Mainline Chrysler. You're listening to the all-new Sports Cage on 620 CKRM, and thanks for watching if you're doing it on our stream at sportscage.com.
The all-new Sports Cage is brought to you by Sherwood Co-op, proud supporter of our community with over 500 donations to local charities and nonprofits annually.
Since 1949, Nelson Homes has been providing you one-stop shopping for ready-to-move homes, panelized packages, and on-site builds. Nelson Homes' team of authorized dealers all over Saskatchewan would be happy to help you turn your dream home into a reality. In the Fort Capella area, call Calvin at 99 Builders or call 1-800-661-6534 for more information. Nelson Homes, trusted quality and service since 1949.
Saskatchewan Fish and Wildlife Development Fund lands are managed to provide the best possible wildlife habitat for the greatest number of species. These lands are not reserves or sanctuaries and can be used by anyone for hiking, bird watching, and hunting. However, vehicles are only permitted to access for the retrieval of legally harvested big game animals. If you are aware of any abuse to Fish and Wildlife Development Fund lands, call the toll-free Turn-In Poachers line or pound 5555 from a SaskTel cell phone. Find SaskTip on YouTube and Facebook.
At Capital GMC, we're turning up the heat with a special purchase of over 70 GM certified pre-owned 2024 GMC Terrain elevations with all-wheel drive, remote start, and heated seats, starting as low as $31,515. Yep, you heard right. A 2024 for as low as $31,515. Wow! Comes with a manufacturer-backed warranty and 150-point inspection. Don't miss out on this special purchase at Capital GM Certified, corner of Rochdale and Pasqua in Regina.
The all-new Sports Cage continues. You can watch our live stream at sportscage.com and always on the radio. Saskatchewan's voice for local sports, 620 CKRM.
Thanks for taking time out of your busy day to be part of the show. This is the all-new Sports Cage. It's Maz filling in for Barney. The Sports Cage is brought to you by the Canadian Brewhouse. Wing Wednesdays are unbeatable at the Canadian Brewhouse. Only 69 cents each and a mountain of flavors to savor and a flavor of the month. Do that wing thing every Wednesday at the Canadian Brewhouse. All right. Lots happening in Riderville today. Some big signings coming that I know is putting the smiles on faces for a lot of us fans here in Rider Nation, including one key free agent signing that I said was the most important person they needed to sign as soon as the season was over. Let's bring in our next guest to dive right into this on the Western Pizza guest hotline. He's a little under the weather, but he's deciding to play injured or hurt or do what he can for the team. Ladies and gentlemen, Saskatchewan Roughrider historian Rob Vanstone. How you feeling, my friend?
I'm okay, Chris. Just a viral infection that every time I think it's over, it regenerates itself and returns with a vengeance. So my voice sounds a little worse than usual, and it's not even great under optimal conditions. I hope you and your listeners and viewers will forgive me.
Well, the good thing about having free health care in this country is, A, it's free and it's easily accessible. Dripping the service. So last week, I've
had such great healthcare experiences lately. So I went to have a heart monitor installed at the hospital today, just a precaution. And I had the greatest chat with the person who installed it. We both have rescue dogs. We talked dogs for like 10 minutes while she was installing this thing, and then we showed each other pictures of our rescues, and I couldn't have had a better experience with the healthcare system today. I just hope I don't have to use it again for a while.
Well, we got an after Christmas shock. I go to get a prescription refilled the other day, and the clinic that we go to, they have an online booking system now. So you have to go in and you have to select your doctor and the date and all of that. And so I see the doctor's name, but there's no dates available. I'm like, well, maybe they're on vacation. It's January. I mean, listen, we're trying to escape the cold weather. So then nothing, and I eventually go there, and I had asked about the doctor, and they said, oh no. They had a medical incident a couple of weeks ago and they had to retire. And I'm like, so we're out a family doctor. So now we're on a list for someone that they think is going to be coming in the next couple of months to do that. And which is okay. But my thing is now is I wish I had a more personal relationship with the doctor, or like a self to find out if they're just okay as a person. Regardless of that, all of a sudden they went from, I saw them, I think, at the end of November to they're done. And I don't know if the receptionist was supposed to tell us that, that they had a medical event and they had to retire in. So I'm like, holy. So I hear you. And it's great to hear. There's a lot of good people in the healthcare systems. My sister's a nurse. My niece is a nurse. Some other family in the medical system. So, yeah. All right, let's talk football. How I said it when the season ended, the most important free agent that the Riders needed to sign wasn't the quarterback. To me, it's what he was able to do on defense and sort of bring Corey Mace's vision to the field. And the dominance was Jameer Thurman. And then about an hour ago, we get the press release from Ariel. Thurman signed for 2 years that he is going to be in Riderville. How good of news is that?
Yeah, it's tremendous news, not just to have him back for this year, but for next as well. I think that holds true for a lot of players who are returning. And this is now the 10th to re-sign since the season ended. Malik Carney's re-signing was also announced earlier today. And it's so tough to have continuity in the Canadian Football League with one-year contracts being as popular as they are with players and agents, and in some cases, the teams. So to get somebody of that caliber for multiple years is massive. I mean, the middle linebacker is pretty much the quarterback of the defense. It's somebody who fit in so seamlessly because of his previous association with Corey Mace and that defensive philosophy, and just such a solid leader. I mean, if you're a newcomer to Canadian football or a newcomer to a team and you want to see how it's done, just watch Jameer Thurman for even 10 minutes and emulation will serve you very well.
Down the stretch, watching some of those games where Thurman was dominant, like he was all over the field, and it didn't necessarily mean that he was around the ball and the play, but he was disrupting something somewhere else where the ball eventually ended up. And that's where it was like, okay, and you're watching to be, it's all of the little things that you would see on an all 24 shot, but don't necessarily make the highlights that you're going to see again and again on TSN. Now, he did have some highlight reel stuff. And I think, like you had said, this is the 10th player to re-sign. This bodes well, especially for anybody else that they may be courting in free agency or the offseason to be like, listen, we're building something special here. And this is the part that I hate about the CFL and these one-year contracts. How do you build a team when everybody could be, one and done in less than 52 weeks?
Yeah, that does make it challenging. And one of the luxuries the Roughriders have had is that they've been able to reach 2-year deals with a number of people going back to last year. Can you imagine what a free agent bidding frenzy there might be for Roland Milligan Jr. had he not signed a 2-year contract entering last season, for example. So, Samuel Emilus is another example. So it's nice to have those in the back pocket entering the off season. One of the things that I think, you referenced Jameer Thurman, and you sometimes there are things that people might not see, but also I think you have to put into context the things that are obvious. And it's not just that he had interceptions, that he forced fumbles, that he recovered fumbles, but you look at when those plays were made, junctures in those games, the strip, the tackle and strip of Nick Dembski when Winnipeg was here. That was crucial. An interception in Calgary that pretty much salted away the game. Early season fumble recoveries that were so crucial. It's not just a matter of accumulation of numbers, but when you look at the junctures in the games and the junctures in the season when those numbers were recorded. I think that's an important consideration as well.
You had mentioned Malik Carney also signed an extension earlier in the day. That came out early this morning, 1 year. And I had said before you came on, a lot of us had high expectations for Malik Carney. But to me, and tell me if I'm wrong, I thought it took him about a third of the season to really fit into Corey Mace's season. And then the final 2/3 of the season is that with the Malik Carney that we saw, that we thought we were getting from Hamilton, where he was starting to take over games and he was starting to get double teamed and he was really started to make his presence felt on the field. But to me, I felt like it took a while for him to get into the Rider system.
And he was dealing with some injury issues as well that kind of put things on hold and put things on pause a little bit. And Corey Mace mentioned that today, talking with the media from the CFL winter meetings, that as his availability increases, I think the numbers will be higher as well. But I think there's a lot of things that he does that don't necessarily appear on the stat sheet. And Corey Mace also referenced that. I mean, this is somebody who can play multiple spots and perform multiple roles. And he's athletic enough that if you need him to drop back into coverage and almost mimic what a linebacker would do, he can do that as well. So, and I think the second year in the system, second year in Saskatchewan is going to be so beneficial as well. Continuity is just such an important thing. And as you mentioned, it can be a bit of an elusive goal sometimes when one-year contracts are in vogue. So to have him added to the list too, where I think in year 2 with the Roughriders, he could really blossom.
So what was it? Was it last Friday? Jake Mayer, the press conference after signing the 1-year deal with the Riders, he was going through and he was talking about now being part of Rider Nation. And, you've heard it a million times. Everybody talks about, but then once they become part of Rider Nation, I don't necessarily know that people fully grasp what it's like to be part of this until they're here and they're in the pressure cooker. But as I'm watching the press conference, football is the ultimate team game. It takes 12 on each side. It's the ultimate team game until things go really wrong. And then Jake Mayer, you're a team of one turned out into the media and to the fans by yourself for having an incredibly bad year, and all the blame comes down on you. I still feel bad for him. The whole Calgary debacle was not all on him. Okay, he had receivers drop balls. There was questionable coaching and all of that. But for a guy that had to wear a lot of the blame for the Stampeder problems last year, he kind of, to me, seems like he's got thick skin and broad shoulders to be able to handle that and kind of be okay.
Yeah, even talking to him last week, Chris, it seemed a lot like talking to Trevor Harris. Just seems to have a maturity beyond his years. And I'm not really well versed in discussing maturity because I'm still immature. Pushing 61, and I'm kind of proud of that as well. It's a badge of honor when you're trying to pretend that you're sort of young, but I was so impressed with Jake Mayer. And if a low watermark for a quarterback, at least in terms of maybe a perception that's out there as a result of Calgary's difficult season last year, if a low watermark is finishing third in the league in touchdown passes with 22, what's the high watermark? He got through that with some pretty impressive numbers and productivity that was put him in the upper echelon of quarterbacks last year. And so could you imagine if he's in a situation that might be more conducive to success than the one he was in last year? I really am intrigued by this. I've always enjoyed watching him play, watching him throw the football. And his three visits to Mosaic Stadium as the starter for Calgary, he had a quarterback efficiency rating exceeding 100 in all three of them. And so it seems to be a profitable surrounding for him.
You see the quarterback DNA that the Dickinson Huffnagel always looked for and have been successful with. And for whatever reason, it just got off the rails. But it's there. But like you had said, when he's on, he's great. He's efficient. Like, he can throw the ball. He can make those throws. And what people don't realize with the Stamps last year, they were 4-4 one time. And those 4 losses, I think they lost those games 6 points or less. They could have potentially, now ifs, buts, candies, and nuts, they could have been 8-0. And it's a whole other thing. And there probably wouldn't be a Vernon Adams in Calgary. The landscape would be completely different. But And then I like what Luke said Friday when he was on with Barney. It's a 1-year deal, kind of get to know you. It's early dating. Hey, if it works well, we can sign you to a long-term thing. And if it doesn't work, and maybe if it's not, the Riders aren't tied to anything and everybody just moves on. But this could be a really nice off-season steal. You'd mentioned that the winter meetings are going on in Charlotte, North Carolina. And we're going to hear from Coach Corey Mace before the show is through today. A lot's going on. McLeod Bethel-Thompson signs with the Montreal Alouettes. As far as Davis Alexander's backups, could there be anybody better? That's a solid move by Danny Machocha and Jason Moss.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the quarterbacking equation across the league right now, Chris, you're seeing players who were starters last year, began last season as unrivaled starters, now coming into situations where they're in a support capacity, which tells you that the depth of quarterbacking in the CFL is much greater than it was a few years ago when there were some questions as to whether you could even find 9 bona fide starters. Now the depth is such that you look at Cody Fajardo going into Edmonton, you look at Jake Mayer coming here, you look at McLeod Bethel-Thompson going to Montreal, and a lot of teams are too deep, and you can never be too deep when it comes to quarterbacking. So that's a really positive sign as well for the Canadian Football League. And, McLeod Bethel-Thompson is another guy, not unlike Jake Mayer, who was north of 20 touchdown passes last year and is now moving to a different situation. It's nice to have that veteran presence behind your starter. And McLeod Bethel-Thompson, it's a great trivia question. Him and Trevor Harris were teammates in Sacramento. I think it's of the United Football League in 2011. And one of their teammates was John David Washington, the son of Denzel Washington. So
he was great in the TV show Ballers. Like, that is one of the he's actually a great actor. When you mention Sacramento in football, to me it's always going to be David Archer and the Gold Miners. There
Fred
will
Anderson,
never be anybody else.
Yeah,
how did we
segue into that?
How did we end up losing to those teams? I still remember there was a Saturday night game. They were in Vegas to play the Posse, and Anthony Calvillo was just a young punk, and the Riders ended up losing. I can't even remember. It was in the early 90s.
Yeah, it was 90. It was 94, and the temperature was exceeding 100 Fahrenheit, and it was an absolutely blistering surrounding. It's amazing anybody on either team got through that game.
Speaking of the year 1994, nice segue, Rob. Colson, do you want to bring up your camera and come on the screen? I know you weren't alive when this happened, but the names Nancy Kerrigan and Tanya Harding, do they mean anything to you? Anything at all?
They do not.
They do not. Well, today is a big day in sports history because, Rob, you and I remember this. I was working at the radio station in Moose Jaw. You would have been working at the Leader Post. Tanya Harding's goons, Jeff Galooly, her husband, or soon-to-be husband, and his buddy were arrested for clubbing Nancy Kerrigan. So I explained to the youngins on the show what happened back then. The Olympic trials were happening, and Tanya Harding, who would you say had a little bit of a rougher upbringing than a prim and proper Nancy Kerrigan, who they were vying for spots on the figure skating team for the U.S. Olympics, and she got clubbed in the parking lot, basically. She got shanked. And then from there, but don't you remember back in the day, Rob, this took over not only the sports headlines, but this was the news headlines. This was the dominating top story everywhere.
It was everything for an extended period. And then, comes the leading into the Olympics, and then there comes that fateful day when they're both competing. And Nancy Kerrigan winning the silver medal, and Tanya Harding's skate lace coming undone. Just when you think it couldn't get any more bizarre, then Tanya Harding's skate lace comes undone. I mean, my goodness,
then she's crying and the emotions, and
and then we had the Saleh Pelche scandal a few years. The scandal as a result of the judging with Saleh and Pelche. It just seems we couldn't get through the Winter Olympics without a scandal and occurrences that just transcended sport.
And that was back when there was only, we didn't call ourselves this at the time, mainstream media. There was only radio, TV, and newspaper. There was no internet. There was no anything. So you could only get it from like certain play. Remember when we used to be essential, Rob? we were essential services, and now it's kind of like we're an 8th, 9th choice sometimes, potentially. But I remember
my wife assures me that I'm far from essential.
Well, we consider you essential today because when I emailed you, we're like, hey, last minute, chance we can get you on the show. All right. So you did some good work. You wrote a great article. Former Saskatchewan Roughrider quarterback Steve Sarkisian, coach of the Texas Longhorns, was in the college football semifinals on the weekend. They end up losing to Ohio State, and the Sarkisian dream is over. It's going to be Notre Dame taking on Ohio State for the college football championship. Are you surprised that how many players have come through the Rider organization that have gone on to become really good college coaches? Like you've got the Tino Sunseries, you've got I should say the CFL, then you've got the Cliff Kingsburys, and you're going to get the Seth Daggys in there, and these guys that maybe it didn't work out necessarily up here as players, but then they go on to have these nice careers in college that are going to provide them. They're going to be set up for really nice lives.
You know, in the case of Tino Sunseri, I mean, he came from a football family. His dad was a longtime football coach. It was just in the blood there, and that seemed to be his destiny from basically birthright. And you know, we've had a few precedents going way back. You know, Glenn Dobbs, who was a Rider quarterback from 51 to 53, ended up coaching at the University of Tulsa, and was so accomplished as a football coach there, they named Glenn Dobbs Drive after him right outside the stadium. So, you know, Jack Hartman, who was a Rider quarterback in the early 50s, he ended up becoming a legendary American college coach in basketball. And I think they named the arena after Jack Hartman. So there's, you know, going back even before I was born, which is saying something, Riders have been a pretty productive reservoir for collegiate coaches, not just in Canada, but in the United States.
So 1 week from tonight, it will be the Ohio State Buckeyes taking on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and they're going to play that in Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz Stadium for the college football championship. I'm thinking when they expanded to a 12-team playoff this year, that the committee and everybody, if you would have said it's going to be Ohio State and Notre Dame, there's no way in the world no. The reason why we're going to 12 teams is so we can avoid something like this and never have this happen. There's no sexy SEC team in there. I mean, Notre Dame, they don't play in a conference. And I don't know if you saw this, but for them winning that game last week, for beating Penn State, they get from the payout is $20 million for that win that they would share amongst their conference.
That'll pay the NILs for like 3 guys, right?
Yeah. Speaking of that, let's see here. I know that with Georgia quarterback Carson Beck hit the transfer portal, and he got $4 to $5 million to go play for the Miami Hurricanes. He was the Georgia Bulldogs quarterback that got injured in one of the playoff games, and he wasn't able to play in the semifinal. And then now from there, but his girlfriend goes to the University of Miami. She's a Hurricane basketball player, and apparently word came out that this caused a lot of problems on the team this past season because of their relationship and his allegiance to her, and obviously a different university. Are you really a Georgia Bulldog if your girlfriend goes to Miami? So could you imagine you're a 21-year-old Rob Vanstone and someone's handing you $5 million to play a season of football? What is Rob Vanstone? What's the first thing you're going to buy?
I'd probably find some way to squander it. Probably
just irresponsibly squander it.
Yeah, when I was there was nothing about me as a 21-year-old that should even ever be discussed. Probably an apartment on overlooking Central Park in New York. So $5 million could probably get me a couple of months on Central Park West.
Yeah.
So I hope it's my wife and I. Hopefully, we could find one that accepts our dog. But if you were to just bestow $5 million on me right now, I'm sure by November I'd be starting up a GoFundMe. So we'll see.
All right. Do you have a dog in the fight when it comes to the NFL playoffs now that we're through the divisional round? Is there anybody that you want to see? Is there a feel-good story you want to have happen?
Yeah, my dog and I both watched our beloved Denver Broncos lose 31-7 to Buffalo yesterday. So now my dog in the fight is whoever's playing Kansas City, Kansas City opponent. That's just a mindset that's been instilled over years, given the fact that Denver's in the same division. I've always kind of root for the teams. Being a Denver fan, I went through 4 Super Bowl losses before there was that beautiful victory over Green Bay. But I kind of have a soft spot for the Vikings, who are 0-4 in Super Bowls. I have a soft spot for the Buffalo Bills, who are 0-4 in Super Bowls. I have a soft spot for Detroit that's never been to one. So I kind of cheer for those teams because I just like to see those fan bases have that day where that they could savor. Because I just remember what I was like the night the Broncos won their first Super Bowl, and I just stayed up all night listening to KOA, Denver 850 on your dial, and I just did not want that day to end. It was just so sweet. And so for Vikings fans or Lions fans or Bills fans, I'd like them to have that day, except for the Viking fan who was rude to me when I went to see the Broncos at Vikings in 2003. But everybody else was nice. It was just one guy who didn't seem to like me very much. So he must have been very intuitive.
Can we be honest? The Denver Broncos, to me, not that orange is a great color for a uniform, but the normal whatever. But their outfit yesterday and those pants, that was awful. Whoever decided that, they should have just went with the white pant. The orange pants, that's not a good look. I'm especially we're -1 before the games even starts.
And plus, they just come off wearing the retros, which are gorgeous. I love those old uniforms. And so going from that to whatever wardrobe malfunction was on display yesterday, I guess it was that and the offensive malfunctions. Everything was aligned that way. But it was still a good year for the Broncos. There were a lot of steps taken, and Bo Nix for
Bo Nix, and to me, Sean Payton is the best coach in the NFL, because you saw with with all that dead cap space and a roster full of no names, how important coaching is and the job that he did. If he's not the coach of the year, I always thought the Dallas Cowboys, the answer to their problems was Sean Payton. Now it won't work out, and the Cowboys announced they're moving on from Mike McCarthy, but the only one that was going to save that Jerry World would probably listen to would have been a Sean Payton. But it's going to be Denver that's now going to reap the benefits, I think, of that for the years to come. Well, the Cowboys, I think, are going to flounder. Oh, and since you're a bit of a Kansas City Chief hater, no reason to hate, Rob, as we wrap here.
I'm more envious than anything.
Okay.
I love watching Patrick Mahomes. I love watching Kelsey. They don't bug me as much as they used to. They used to just drive me nuts.
Because now they are the Darth Vader. They're the bad guy. They're the villain. The X is on them. Everybody is after them now because they've had success, much like with Brady. The winning is what I think attracted him a whole new following of people that didn't like him because he just won so much, and they won when it mattered. Speaking of the Mahomeses, Patrick and Brittany welcomed their third child this weekend, naming her Golden Ray. They now have 3 kids, Sterling, Bronze, and Golden.
Man, I guess it takes us back to the Olympics, and nobody names silver though when Nancy Kerrigan's silver medal. But it's amazing what kids' names are evolving into. I don't think there'll ever be a Robert again. Have you met anybody named Robert who's younger than me?
There's not a lot of Chris's with K's, and a little inside information. Our kids' names are Kalea, Naya, and Kai. We are not Hawaiian, but my wife loves Hawaiian names. Hence, some very unique. And
those
trust
are very
me,
nice names.
It's taken the grandparents years to learn how to pronounce some of those properly. All right, we'll wrap on this. The Minnesota Vikings, tonight, they're taking on the LA Rams in Arizona. Who wins?
The way the Vikings played against Detroit in that late season game planted an element of doubt in my mind. But I still think that is a very good Vikings team. I think there's a few questions about what Sam Darnold you're going to get, but I still think by and large Minnesota is the superior team, and maybe that was just an aberration that we saw toward the end of the year. So I'm picking the Vikings to win. So congratulations to the Rams, because my predictions are always wrong.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, on the Western Pizza Guest Hotline, he's Rob Vanstone, the Saskatchewan Roughriders historian. Rob, as always, we appreciate your time. We're going to take a break and come back. It was an okay weekend for the Regina Pats. a split of games on what's turned out to be a very hot race for first place in the East Division. We'll dive into that in just a couple of minutes. Time to take a break. This is the all-new Sportscage, streaming at sportscage.com and on the radio at 620 CKRM.
Regina's Greek community invites you to an Evening in Greece 2025 gala on Saturday, March 8th at Delta Regina. Cocktails and reception are at 5:30. Then enjoy authentic Greek cuisine with live entertainment and dance to follow. You could even win a dream vacation for 2 to Greece. That's an Evening in Greece 2025 gala Saturday, March 8th at Delta Regina. Get your tickets by calling 306-536-4299, email eigYQR@gmail.com, or check them out on Facebook. In support of the Hospitals of Regina Foundation.
What do you think you're doing?
Bench presses. It's too cold to go to the gym, so I made one in the garage here. I'm going to wail on my pecs, and then I'm going to do my back.
Lester, since Busy Bee Doors fixed our garage door, you've been spending all your time in here.
That's because it's nice in here now. Do you mind? I'm trying to work out here. Unless you want to spot me.
Lester, you're not taking over this garage. You can be sure of that.
That's why I called Busy Bee.
Call Busy Bee Doors. They can fix or replace any commercial or garage door. Busy Bee Doors, the garage door specialists.
Clear your calendar for Manitoba Egg Days, happening January 21st through 23rd at the Keystone Centre in Brandon. This year, you can take in over 550 exhibitors, including the new Produced on the Prairies Market. And with 34 entries in the Innovation Showcase and over 60 complimentary speakers, you won't want to miss this year's show. You can find all the info you need and purchase admission tickets at eggdays.com. Manitoba Egg Days, where the egg year begins.
It's Grow Time! Canada's Farm Show Regina, Saskatchewan, presented by Viterra, the premier event for farmers, agribusiness professionals, exhibitors, and sponsors, happening March 18th to 20th, 2025. Featuring a vast trade show with hundreds of companies with special offers, clinics, and learning sessions, along with live entertainment in Young's Equipment Farmhouse Lounge. This is your must-attend spring event. That's March 18th to 20th at Real District. Get your tickets at Canada's Farm Show Regina, SK.com.
We want your business on board for the Harvard Media online auction. It's easy. All you've got to do is provide items like gift cards, experiences, services, or whatever cool product you have. And in exchange, we'll give you a world-class marketing campaign. No entry fee or cash outlay, just a good old trade deal. That hammer could be coming down for you. Just hit up harvardmedia.com and join in on all the excitement. Terms and conditions apply.
Hockey is back, and what better way to kick off the season than a visit to Extreme Hockey and Sports? Check out the Bauer Fit Lab for your custom skate fitting. And stay tuned for the new shooting lane to provide customers with the best shopping experience as possible. And off the ice, look great. Visit their umbrella marketing professionals for all your team and corporate apparel. Extreme Hockey and Sport, 1425 McIntyre Street and the Pro Shop, conveniently located at the Cooperator Center.
The all-new Sports Cage. Watch our live stream at sportscage.com and on the radio at 620 CKRM.
The winter meetings are on in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's the American Football Coaches Association convention, and with them having the meetings down there, one of the reasons for CFL coaches being there is to talk to the American coaches and sell the game. Because although, yes, I mean, the world is smaller than ever with the internet, letting some of these coaches know that there's options for the players, because not everybody's making the NFL. I mean, there's how many tens of thousands of college kids every year, and there's a finite 1% that's potentially going to make the NFL. But a lot of them are good enough to play somewhere else. And the CFL is a great league, minus the people that are putting the schedule together, which apparently, and if you caught the show on Friday, Farhan Lalji said that it's close and that what he knows is there won't be any of these touchdown Atlantic or Pacific games, which when the Riders did them, I hated them because to me, it was too much. You could point back to parts of the season where that seemed to have it kind of go off the rails for them. So there won't be any of that this year. Will it be out this week? Nobody knows. But what we do know, Dave Thomas will catch up with Corey Mace. We'll have that on the show before we're through today at 6 with thoughts on a whole bunch of different things as to what's going on in Charlotte. It's Maz filling in for Barty today. If you want to get at us, you can always text us or call us 306-936-6262. The Pats split games on the weekend. Friday, they beat the Moose Jaw Warriors 5-4 in overtime on a Zach Pantelakis overtime goal. And then Saturday, they lost 7-3 to the Portland Winterhawks. They're going to be back in action on Wednesday. The Red Deer Rebels are going to be in town. We'll have the pregame show at 6:30, and then the play-by-play with Dante DeCarry at 7 right here on 620 CKRM. There was 2 games in the Western Hockey League yesterday. Calgary beat Brandon 4-2. Calgary looks strong. With the moves they made earlier in the season and then a couple of here late at the trade deadline, they look like they're contenders in the East Division. Everett also beat Tri-City yesterday 4-1. There's only one game tomorrow. Portland will be in PA to play the Raiders. That'll be tomorrow night. Eastern Conference standings, Colson, Medicine Hat, and Calgary tied for first with 52 points. I'm trying to remember if there's been a year where it's been this crazy or this close. It's like a dogfight in the standings. So, and then tied for second, you've got Saskatoon and Lethbridge with 48 points. And Dante said last week that we probably haven't seen the best of the Lethbridge Hurricanes. And I think at the time we had that conversation, they were in 4th or 5th. Now they're in 2nd because it's starting to come around. They've got 48 points. And Edmonton is tied for 3rd with 47 points. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So the trade deadline. So I think Calgary's for real. I think Medicine Hat is for real. I think if the Lethbridge Hurricanes are going to surge, Dante said that he thinks, didn't he say that he thinks that Lethbridge is going to end up winning the East Division just outright?
I think he said that, yeah. We've had a lot of WHL guys on, and yeah, Medicine Hat, Calgary, Lethbridge, Swift was thrown in there a bit too. That area is just going to be hard to go through because if you want to get anywhere in the playoffs, you're going to have to face one of those teams.
Yeah. And a lot of people, and I was one of them, thought with Saskatoon trading away some of their better players at the deadline so they could, restock the cupboards and pick up some assets that potentially their game could fall off. Hasn't happened yet. Will it? We don't know. But I think they're having a season better than expected. But it'll be interesting. And now that the trade deadline is come and gone, these are the teams, these are the rosters, and it's time. It's jockeying time for position in the playoffs, and home ice advantage is so important. There was 3 games in the SJHL on Sunday. Yorkton beat the Battlefords 10-5. Flin Flon beat Humboldt 4-2, and Kindersley beat Nipawin 7-1. So in the Viterra Division standings, first place Yorkton, you've got 45 points. Weyburn's in second place with 44 points. Sherwood Division, Melfort first place with 58 points. And Colson, Flin Flon closed the gap. I think a week ago it was 40 or 41 points. So they're playing some good hockey. They're closing the gap. Are they going to catch Melfort? I don't know. But the lead is shrinking. And in the Nutrien Division, this is the toughest one. The Battleford's in first place with 43 points, and Kindersley's in second with 40 points. Keenan Ingram is your top scorer for the Yorkton Terriers. 45 points, 26 goals, and 19 assists.
Yeah. I was going to say, the thing to remember, too, is the Terriers forfeited those first 5 games, right? Because they had those 5 wins, but they had the bookkeeping or ineligible player thing, whatever. So really, they'd be second and pretty up close with Melfort there. So it's a tight top 3.
It is. And remember when all of that happened, we were wondering, I'm like, oh, that poor kid, he's been kicked out of the league forever. No, he got a chance to play. Now, once they got the paperwork sorted out, but we're like, how is this fault? How is he getting kicked? He wasn't kicked out of the league. But at the time, we just didn't know.
Yeah.
Tight. The new weekly SJHL Power rankings are up at sportscage.com. Melfort's number 1, and you can read the why. And if you're not a Mustangs fan, you're going to have a million reasons to be like, I don't agree with this at all. This is not journalism. This is just biased. This is just downright homerism. And as well, when you're on sportscage.com, you can sign up for the daily newsletter and you can get those top stories delivered right to your inbox. It shows up every afternoon about between 1 and 1:30 every day. And you can stay on top of everything that's happening. And don't forget, we will do the SJHL report tomorrow for Southie, Mainline Chrysler, with Benny Walchuk. All right, here. It's time to take a break. When we come back, we'll go inside the NHL with Eric Francis. It's our weekly look at what's happening in the National Hockey League. Stand by, we'll do that. This is the all-new Sports Cage on 620 CKRM, and we're also streaming on our website at sportscage.com.
It's 4 o'clock. Good afternoon. It's mostly sunny and it's minus 21 in Regina. I'm Corey Atkinson from the Harvard Media News Center with 620 CKRM News. A fatal crash on Highway 7 near Laura, Saskatchewan on Sunday night claimed the life of a 42-year-old man from Airdrie, Alberta. Warman RCMP say an SUV and a pickup truck collided around 10:50 p.m. The driver of the SUV was pronounced dead at the scene, and his family has been notified. The truck's driver was taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The highway was closed for investigation but has since reopened. RCMP and collision reconstructionists are continuing their work. Saskatchewan RCMP seized over 1,500 pounds of illicit cannabis during a traffic stop near Swift Current on Thursday. The roving traffic unit stopped a cargo van on Highway Number 1 and discovered the cannabis and cash inside. The driver, a 53-year-old man from Port Moody, BC, was arrested and charged with drug distribution and possession of crime-related property. The suspect is set to appear in Swift Current Provincial Court on April 16th. Saskatchewan Highway Patrol assisted in the investigation, which underscores ongoing enforcement efforts to combat illegal cannabis distribution. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh wants to see Canada block all critical mineral exports to the United States in response to President-elect Donald Trump's tariff threats. The United States imported more Canadian critical minerals like aluminum, lithium, and potash than all other countries combined in 2023. Singh argues that Canada needs to show the U.S. that going after Canada's economy will also hurt Americans, and talking to Trump has not worked.
Donald Trump is not rational. You can't discuss a plan over a meal with him. He is a bully, and bullies understand one thing, that is strength. They also understand pain. So if he wants to pick a fight with Canada, we have to make sure it's clear that it's going to hurt Americans as well.
The federal government will meet with Canada's premiers on Wednesday to talk about the response to the incoming Trump administration, and possible retaliatory tariffs are on the agenda. U.S. President Joe Biden has issued a statement on the death toll in the California fires.
In a new statement, President Biden expressed his grief over the deaths from the California wildfires, saying, quote, "Our hearts ache for the 24 innocent souls we have lost. Jill and I pray for them and their loved ones." The president said he continues to be frequently briefed on intensive efforts to suppress the fires and has directed his team to respond promptly to any request for additional federal firefighting assistance. His message to the firefighters and first responders: "You represent the best of America, and we are in your debt." Karen Travers, ABC News, the White House.
And a strong earthquake has rattled southwestern Japan, but there were no reports of serious damage.
Japan marked Coming of Age Day today, a public holiday celebrating young people reaching maturity. In the evening, a strong earthquake estimated at magnitude 6.9 shook the southwestern region. Small tsunami waves followed, but warnings have now been lifted. Authorities reported no disruption to nuclear reactor operations and advised residents to remain cautious as additional tremors may follow. Anthony Trotter, ABC News, Tokyo.
That's your 620 CKRM News. Read more stories from around your community and around the province at sasktoday.ca and 620ckrm.com. Your weather is next.
0% financing or instant discount. The decision is yours to make at Future Ford in Melville. Right now, you can get into a brand new 2024 Ford F-150 and get 0% financing up to 72 months or get $8,000 off the price. Plus, as a bonus from Future Ford, they're throwing in free oil changes. If a new truck doesn't fit your lifestyle or needs, no problem. Get 0% financing for up to 60 months on select Escape, Bronco Sport, Mustang Mach-E, and more. Check out their website, futureford.ca, and see their great selection today. The future is Future Ford in Melville.
Get it hot and get it fast. Western Pizza.
Some will try to tell you 8 inches is enough. Others will say 10 inches will do. But when you want a lot of pizza, you gotta hanker down with the delicious 13-inch pepperoni from Western Pizza. Why mess with a good thing? You know what you want. 13 inches of pepperoni pizza perfection from Western Pizza. Western Pizza. Big on toppings, big on taste. Dine in or take out. Order today.
And get it hot and get it fast. Western Pizza.
Now it's It's time for your 620 CKRM precision weather forecast for Linex Regina. Serious protection, killer looks, 1865 McCarra Street. Tonight, cloudy with some light snow and flurries possible. The temperature will be minus 22, but rising overnight. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy and minus 7. Wednesday, partly sunny with a brisk wind and a high of plus 2. And on Thursday, partly sunny with some light snow and a high of plus 1. At this hour in Moose Jaw, there's some light snow and drifting snow. Winds are from the southeast at 21, and it's minus 15. Regina is mostly sunny. Winds are from the southeast at 23, and it's minus 21. For more local news that matters to you, subscribe to our daily newsletter at sasktoday.ca.
When you want the best for your truck, you want Line-X. Your truck has withstood the harshest elements Saskatchewan has thrown at it. Rocks, gravel, rain, sleet, and snow, and left with no chips, no rust. Line-X protective coating keeps your truck's bed liners, rocker panels, and bumpers looking like brand new. Don't settle for Brand X. Go with Line-X. It's serious protection. Come see why everybody loves taking their truck to Line-X Regina for their rocker panels, bumpers, and more. Line-X. Make your truck complete. 1865 McCarra Street.
Act fast when wildlife damage happens. Don't wait. Delaying may impact your claim. All Saskatchewan producers may be eligible to receive funding for both preventative measures and wildlife damage concerns. To learn more about wildlife damage prevention and compensation options, contact your local SCIC office or call 1-888-935-0000. SCIC. Here at every turn.
Broadcasting from Century Studios in downtown Regina, Harvard Media presents the all-new Sports Cage, where Saskatchewan comes to talk local sports. Brought to you by Kellen Solar, installing solar in residential and commercial buildings for 35 years. Local and trusted. Kellen Solar. Visit KELLNsolar.com. Be a part of the show. Call 1-866-767-0620 or text 306-936-6262. The all-new Sports Cage. Streaming at sportscage.com and on the radio at 620 CKRM.
It's hour 2 of the show. Maz filling in for Barney today. And if you're going to check out tonight's game between the Minnesota Vikings and the LA Rams, don't forget the Canadian Brew House. That's where the NFL lives, with a chance to win a trip to an NFL home opener of your choice. $1 off tankards, a Bud Light and Budweiser. Details at the CanadianBrewhouse.com. A big signing in Riderville happened a couple hours ago. Jameer Thurman signs a 2-year contract extension with the Riders, so he is staying in green and white. He is one of the key free agents that we needed to sign. That is done deal, locked up for 2 years. Also, earlier in the day, we found out that Malik Carney has signed a 1-year extension. He'll be with the green and white again this season through the end of 2025. All right, it's Monday, and that means it's time to go inside the NHL with Eric Francis.
Time now for Inside the NHL with Eric Francis on the all-new Sports Cage. Inside the NHL is brought to you by Southie Mainline, the Mainline Automotive Group's newest king of trucks. Southie Mainline, just 30 minutes north of Regina. Worth the drive every time. Guaranteed.
There's our guy, Eric Francis. It's middle of January-ish, the NHL, the race is on to the Four Nations Cup. I think I read something somewhere that the Flames were going to play 15 games in 29 days, and there's a lot of teams on this crazy schedule as we get closer and closer to, well, like an event I think a lot of us are looking forward to. But there's some interesting things happening in the NHL, and maybe you can offer a little insight. Yesterday, one of the games, Todd McClellan and the Detroit Red Wings won their 7th straight. They beat the Seattle Kraken 6-2. Eric, what has Todd done to that Red Wing team to turn the ship around?
Well, I mean, empowers people, right? I mean, that's kind of the idea of a new coach, to come in and say, look, guys, it wasn't working under the previous coach. You have a blank slate with me. Show me what you can do, and I'll give you all the rope in the world as long as you're working hard and doing some of the things I asked for. And they've had talent in that room for a long, long time. A long, long time is a bit of a stretch, but for the last several years, certainly everyone's been waiting in the National Hockey League for them, Buffalo, to make that step, right? And there was always the question of which one of those two or Ottawa were going to make that step first over in the East. And And maybe they're for real, and maybe this is the step that everybody's been waiting for them to take, and maybe it just took a new coach, a new vision, a new attitude around their room to get it out of them. Because the leadership of Dylan Larkin and some of these young guys like Lucas Raymond and Moritz Seider, and this Edmondson's a real stud, young, big monster defenseman who's logging a ton of minutes. Like, they've got a lot of the pieces. It was just a matter of filling in the gaps, and maybe they have now. We'll see. I'm skeptical because Buffalo, Ottawa, and Detroit have all taken turns over the last couple of years, showing us in spurts what everyone knows they have, but they can't seem to sustain it. So we'll see. I think there's a lot of people in the hockey world hoping for Stevie Yzerman that it is for real, because they've been lost in the woods for quite some time. He probably deserves a break.
He does. And now, it doesn't matter the sport. Coaches are hired to be fired. That is just a fact of life. And the NHL is no different. Coaches wear out their welcome. With Todd McClellan, because it seems like the welcome's getting shorter and shorter. If you're Todd McClellan, do you think in your mind you've got a max 3 years to get whatever you're going to get out of this done? Because, as soon as you sign that dotted line, it seems like almost now the window starts to close.
I don't know I certainly don't know what the average lifespan of a coach is. It's certainly shorter than 3 years, but so you're right. I mean, I think 3 years is a long time for a coach to be able to get his footing and find his way. And if you can't do it, to your point, like, this is a team that's built to start. They've been rebuilding for a while.
Oh, are we losing Eric there? I think we lost. We had a bad internet connection. Colson. Reconnect. There we are. Yeah, Todd. I mean, Todd McClellan, usually when he comes in, has success, but eventually it all wears out. Now, that's any coach anywhere. And we like Todd McClellan, good Saskatchewan guy. I remember when I worked at the radio station in Swift Current, he was the coach of the Broncos at the time, and then he left that job because of the success he had in the Western Hockey League to go on to the Houston Aeros, which started his pro coaching career. Okay, Eric's back. We were. I was just mentioning on the McClellan front. Usually, wherever he goes, he's great at the start and can get guys going and playing their system. But eventually, like it is with everywhere, it fades, goes from there. Nikita Kucherov yesterday, 2 goals, 1 assist. Tampa beats Pittsburgh 5-2. Ottawa beat Dallas 3-2. Cutter Gauthier, the most hated man in Philadelphia, 2 goals, including the overtime winners. The Ducks beat the Hurricanes 3-2. And Vegas keeps its share of first place in the NHL with a 4-1 win over the Minnesota Wild. They had a nice tribute to Marc-Andre Fleury. It's his last game there before retirement.
Yeah, good on him.
Is there anybody, have you ever met anybody that doesn't like Marc-Andre Fleury? Because he just seems like a great guy and a great teammate.
No, even all the forwards who he's frustrated over the years with his brilliance, even they'd have to admit in their heart of hearts they love the guy. I'm going to tell you a little story. During COVID a couple of years ago, stop me if I've told you this before, but during COVID, a couple of years, whenever COVID first hit, it was my son's, I think, 10th birthday. And, at age 10, birthdays mean a lot. You want to see your friends, you want to have loot bags, you want to go to the McDonald's caboose, whatever floats your boat. But nobody could see anybody. And he'd been in a period of time where nobody was allowed to see anybody for a long time. School was off. And I just thought, you know what? His favorite player in the NHL was Marc-Andre Fleury. And I reached out to his agent, Alan Walsh, who I've known for a lot of years. And I said, Alan, is there any way that you could get Marc-Andre to do a video or something for my son just to say happy birthday? I'm going to say 2 hours later, I had a video from Marc-Andre Fleury. Maybe we'll play it one day. I'll send it to you. We can play it on the air here. It's short, it's sweet, but he's out at a park with his kids and he just took the time to just say, hey, Cole, I'm really sorry to hear you can't go and celebrate your birthday with your friends, but, happy birthday. And thanks for being a fan of mine and a fan of the Pittsburgh Penguins at the time. And, I guess it was Vegas at the time. Anyway, he said, just that it was just when I got the video, it damn near brought a tear to my eye. And maybe just talking about it now, it doesn't mean a whole lot. But you have to remember where we were in the world during COVID and how desolate it seemed and how scary it was. And it meant the world to me as a dad. And I know it meant a lot to my son too. So these are the sort of things that Marc-Andre Fleury does. I haven't heard of any other players throwing together birthday videos for little boys.
We're inside the NHL with Eric Francis from Sportsnet. It's brought to you by Southie Mainline Chrysler. Farewell to 2024 and hello to massive savings at Southie Mainline. Up to $25,000 off remaining 2024 inventory. Eric, you'd look good. Save up to $19,000 on a 2024 heavy-duty truck. Plus, they got 2024 Jeep Compasses starting at $34,945. They're just 30 minutes south of Regina, Southie Mainline. Worth the drive every time, guaranteed. 3 games in the NHL tonight. It's not on Sportsnet. You got to have Amazon Prime to watch this, and luckily we do. I saw that ding on the phone the other day, the 5-something that they take for Prime. So not only can we get whatever our house is full. We don't need any more stuff, but stuff keeps showing up, probably like at your house. But tonight we can watch Calgary and Chicago. I don't know if this is prime time. I like how Amazon shoots the game. I think it's neat. Calgary needs to win this game. They beat the Kings on Saturday. It's 2-1. And if they don't beat a team like Chicago tonight, it's those games on Saturday where they play good defense. Dustin Wolf stands on his head. You can't let a game like that go to not beat a team like Chicago, who, not that they're not talented, that they can't win, but these are the games they have to win to stay in playoff contention. Do you agree?
I do agree. And I know there's 41 games left, and no one's sitting here saying it's a must-win, but the Calgary Flames last year, if you recall, before they had to get rid of all their UFAs, they were right at this time last year. They were right in a playoff spot as well. They were right there against some of the odds. And ultimately, they're undoing, when they traded away all their unrestricted free agents, it was pretty predictable. They just slide into oblivion. But what kickstarted their exodus from the playoff race was long before the UFAs went away. It was when they lost, I think, 4 out of 5 or 3 out of 4 against the Chicago Blackhawks. They've had a hard time with this team for several years now. No one can explain it. But, when you miss the playoffs, I can't remember how many they missed by last year, but you gave up, I think, 8 of a possible 10 points to one of the worst teams in the National Hockey League, a team clearly tanking and on their way back up, maybe in the next 5 or 10 years, the way it's going. So yeah, these are the games you have to win. You're on a 4-game road trip if you're the Flames. The next 2 games after that are both in St. Louis. That's kind of a quirky schedule thing. And then after that, you're in Winnipeg. Good luck facing Connor Hellebuck, especially at home. So and the Flames are also one of the worst road teams in the league. If you're going to win games on the road, you'd like to think you could be able to do it against the lowly Chicago Blackhawks. So I agree with you. If you have a Prime account, and quite frankly, who doesn't? You can tune into this game last night. I get that it's not appointment viewing. I get that when you see those 2 teams on the marquee, you're like, is there anything else I can watch? But there is some intrigue around the Calgary Flames, and of course, Chicago does have Connor Bedard, so that's always worth watching.
So last week, and I don't know, I'm like, have I been living in an igloo? Have I been like living under a rock? I didn't know. All of a sudden, where's this Rasmus Andersson needs to be traded or has requested a trade coming from the Calgary Flames? I thought he was like a long-term guy. Is there any truth is there flames where there is smoke coming from this rumor?
No, I haven't even heard that rumor. That's ridiculous. Whoever made that up must be your neighbor.
Okay.
No, there's, I did have a column on Friday, an exclusive chat with Rasmus Andersson where he said, I want to be here long-term. I want to sign. Okay. I don't want to be traded at the deadline this year, but I only have a 6-team no trade list. So it's out of my hands. He said, I can sign a new deal July 1st. He's got a year and a half left on his contract. So nothing pressing here. There will be no trade of Rasmus Andersson unless the bottom completely falls out of this season and he requests a trade. But he's happy here. He's been empowered here. He's been their number 1 defenseman here. I think he should seriously consider staying here because we've seen so many guys who leave as UFAs thinking the grass is greener. Not necessarily is that the case. But I'll tell you what, I started looking at the numbers, Maz, and like by the time he rolls around to being a UFA in a year and a half and the way the cap's going up, I'll give you this. So Darnell Nurse kind of set the bar at a ridiculous height. What is he making? $9.5 a year to be a top 4 defenseman at best. Rasmus Andersson is the number 1 defenseman in Calgary. There's a better defensive team than the Edmonton Oilers. If that's 11% of the cap space that the Edmonton Oilers have is dedicated to Darnell Nurse. Extrapolate that to the salary cap's going to go up to like 110 in a couple of years. Start doing the numbers to 120. I think it's supposed to be in 2 years. You're looking at a $12 million defenseman in Rasmus Andersson. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. I wouldn't do it in a heartbeat, but that's going to be the going rate for a number 1 defenseman. Like on the open market, he's going to sign somewhere between 10, 11, $12 million. So if that's the price you want to pay as the Calgary Flames to keep him, it's probably what you're looking at. As ridiculous as it sounds. And that's not to besmirch his name. He's been pretty good for this team, and he wants to stay. So we'll see where that goes. But nothing's going anywhere anytime soon, to your point.
Yeah, well, if you're Craig Conroy, you'd be smart. Because what was I reading today? The cap's is it going from 88 to 97 million next year? It's going up 9 million. Is that the correct number?
I forget the number. And in 2 years, it'll be up to 110. So
sure. So if you're Craig Conroy, it's in your best interest to go throw the bag at him now before you know that it's going to get ridiculous to sign this long-term deal. The Florida Panthers, they just keep on.
I don't. No agent would let their players sign a year early. I don't think.
I know, but in a perfect world, if you're with Craig Conroy and the company checkbook to be like, hey, can we just? Wouldn't it be great if you could tear up contracts and sign new ones, or you could that would make hockey a lot more interesting if contracts weren't guaranteed like the NFL. Only some of the upfront money. It would definitely change how the game is played. The Panthers are in Philadelphia tonight to take on the Flyers. I'm just trying to think, how long has Torts been with Philadelphia? Because the act hasn't worn out yet. Are we into year 3? Speaking of coaches wearing out their acts.
Yeah, I think it's 4. Year 2. 3 or 4, yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Florida just keeps playing good hockey. Yeah, he's a beauty. They've seemed to replace what they lost, but probably the game of the night that a lot of people are intrigued, and this could be a potential playoff matchup, the LA Kings and the Edmonton Oilers. Somewhere along the way, if you're getting out of the West, these two teams might match up. On Saturday against the Flames, did we not see the Kings team that they usually present because they played the night before on a back-to-back?
Yeah, you'd think that being from, the entertainment capital of the world, they try to play entertaining hockey, but they get away with playing just plug up they play a very boring brand of hockey. They have for many years. It's just the way they've played hockey. And that game on Saturday, up until the midway point when Ryan Lomberg started fighting everybody, it was a tough game to watch. It was sloppy. It was clogged up right in the middle. But that's the LA Kings. The LA Kings, they're a damn good hockey team. They play to their identity very well. They're a low event team at both ends of the ice. They like it played right in the neutral zone. And they'll be there in the playoffs, and they're going to be one of the minor impediments in the way of the Edmonton Oilers at some point in time. I think the Oilers have eliminated them, 3 years in a row now? But
jeez.
I'll tell you, the most interesting thing coming out of that game Saturday was indeed Ryan Lomberg. This guy, so that's the 3rd game this year where he's fought 2 guys in a game, and he keeps threatening to try and get the hat trick and fight 3 guys in one night, which is an automatic ejection. But if anybody can do it in the league, it's probably Ryan Lomberg, and he's such a character. He fought Tanner Jeannot. There's a 1-1 game, and not much was going on, and he just wanted to shake it up for his team. One of those fights. He went and asked Tanner Jeannot, "Will you fight?" And Jeannot's like, "I'm 32 pounds taller." And Jeannot probably got the better half of the fight. Didn't kill him or anything, but on the way to the box, there he is. As his coach said after, he's an animal. He's smiling, laughing. The crowd is going nuts. They love this guy. This guy's one of the most popular players in this city I've seen in 30 years, like inside and outside the room. And he just gets it. He's in the penalty box, and there's a fan next to him. And they show the fan on the Jumbotron, and Lomberg. Lomberg looks up, sees the Jumbotron, and motions to the guy, "Hey, chug, man, be a hero." He's always trying to get the crowd going, whether it's through a fan, whether it's through a fight, whether it's through a hit. And so the fan just takes a sip and then puts his beer down. And Lomberg's like, buddy, like, and says after the game, like, next time I try to get a guy, I hope he hoses his beer and he gets the crowd going, because that's what it's all about. And that is exactly what it's all about for Ryan Lomberg, and he brings it. So if the LA Kings are one of the most boring teams in the league, they played one of the most exciting players in Ryan Lomberg. He's a beauty.
Well, it's too bad that guys like that eventually, the NHL just won't have any of that. And that's the personality. That's what makes the league the league. Like the characters are what make, because characters you never forget. Characters and stories you never ever forget that. So and he is, and I always wondered, like he won the cup last year with the Panthers, and then he's back in Calgary, and I'm like, well, and I was like, well, yeah, but he's a glue guy. He's a grit guy. I think I read somewhere today is Connor McDavid's 28th birthday. Does he not seem older than 28? Just because we've had Connor McDavid in our lives for so long.
Yeah.
He's not the normal. This isn't shocking. This isn't a hot take or breaking news. I don't think he's the normal 28-year-old.
Rack that one, boy. That's a good take. Yeah, no, he's still the best. He's the best in the world. I mean, there's just no question about it. Look, I've had this debate with my friends, not debate, but discussion. It's more fear at this point. People ask me all the time. I ask them, can Canada win this thing at the Four Nations Cup, Four Nations face-off? And I say the only hope they have, in my opinion, because their goaltending is so inferior to everybody else, the only hope they have is the fact that we have the three best players in the world. Connor McDavid, Cale
Darnell
McCarr,
Nurse. And
Darnell Nurse. Yeah, I don't know how he didn't make the team. And Nathan McKinnon. So you know, when you have the three best players in the world, you should have a damn good chance. But when you got a goalie who's probably ranked, if there are 12 goalies in the tournament, I'd have a hard time putting any of Canada's in the top 8. It's just the way. I mean, I hope they prove us all wrong. And boy, there's nobody in the world who'd be more motivated to prove the world wrong than Binnington, because he's got that chip on his shoulder already. But I can't see it happening. I just can't see it happening. So McDavid's going to have to shoulder a heavy load at Four Nations face-off if this team's going to have a chance.
I'm a normal 28-year-old, by the way.
If you haven't accomplished as much as Connor McDavid, Colson.
Certainly not.
Yeah.
No.
Are you a goalie? We need you.
Yeah. 27 and a half. He's a bit older than me, but close enough.
I was watching the Cam and Strick podcast last week, and Martin Brodeur was on there, Martin Brodeur, and he was talking about how when he was with the St. Louis organization, they were trying to send Binnington down, and he phoned Binnington, and Binnington's like, no, I'm not going down. You're not sending me to the minors. It's not happening. He like talked his way out of getting sent down. And I'm like, you got to, you know, that guy. Like yeah, it sounds like Binnington. The NFL wildcard weekend wasn't wild after all, and it usually never is, because the tiers in the NFL, there's that upper echelon, and the murky middle can never beat the upper echelon. The only interesting game last night was Tampa Bay and Washington, Jaden Daniels. So tonight we're going to wrap wildcard weekend. The Minnesota Vikings taking on the LA Rams at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. The game's been moved because of the fires in LA. Are you watching? And if you are, who do you think is coming out with a win?
I will be keeping an eye on it. I don't know if I'll be watching. The Flames game's on at the same time, so that takes precedent for me. But yeah, I mean, NFL for me, you know, I know you're not allowed to say these sort of things out loud, but the NFL doesn't captivate me like it does the rest of the world. So I will be watching. I watched that Commanders game last night. I love how much is being made about that kicker going in and being so nervous that he fixed his hair about 6 times before he put his helmet on.
Do we have that? If you don't have anxiety, you watch this clip, you will get anxiety. Watch this guy. Like, this is nuts. Yeah. He can't stop touching his hair.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 4, 5. 7. Oh my God.
The guy's name is Zane. I know. Like, I was so uncomfortable after the first time I watched it. I had to watch it again. The guy's name is Zane Gonzalez, I believe. He's their third or fourth kicker this year. And I think he hasn't played in the. Yeah, he hasn't played in the NFL since 2001. I think his last team was the Cleveland Browns. So obviously, he's got a lot riding on his shoulders. I mean, it's funny when you see players that wear wedding rings, like when they're in games, like then I was feeling bad to be like, well, if this guy doesn't make this, like this is affecting his family because he's cut. Like you just know that he is.
Oh yeah.
And then they doink it through. Colson, do we have that video? Want to pull that up for Eric where they kick it through? This is the play-by-play team, the Washington play-by-play team, and they're just losing their mind. It's awesome.
Looking to send Washington into the divisional round. Snap good, hold down, kick on its way. It is good! The Cardiac Commanders are the clutch Commanders! They do it again! We'll see you in Detroit! And Zane Gonzalez kicks in the door and kicks us into the second round of the playoffs!
Oh, that's the beauty of live radio, man. I love it. So that's their first win in 6,945 days, the first playoff win in 20 years. All they needed to do is get rid of that scumbag owner, Dan Snyder, and then they hire Dan Quinn. They get the number 2 overall pick, and they get Jaden Daniels, and then things are good. I'm not a Washington fan, but after that, you can't not be a Washington fan and just sort of cheer for what's happening there, because that is why we love sports. It's the emotion and the roller coasters and the highs that go along with it.
Oh yeah, and everyone's excited about the quarterback there. Like he's going to transform that organization, and he already has in a way. I think when you talk about it being a clutch play or clutch win. I mean, if they don't grease the poles before the game, that thing doesn't go through. That's pretty, and everybody's face afterwards. The coaches and the assistant coach look at each other. They both are like laughing, going, woo, like that was close. So if anyone in that organization thinks they have any faith in that kicker, they're lying to you. Like they're lying. There's no faith in this guy. And there shouldn't be. He's their fourth kicker, and he's more worried about his hair than actually nailing the game winner. So I don't. But again, that's a character in a way, and we all will watch that game next week. And want to see how this kicker does. Everyone's expecting him to fail. If he comes through, it's one of those great stories in sports. So we'll be watching, and I look forward to it. They don't have much chance against Detroit, I know that, but at least he'll get in a couple kicks, and we'll see how.
Colson, do we have that video of the guys in the Philly before the Philly game in the parking lot pumping iron? Do we have that one ready to go? This is the most bizarre thing. This is the most interesting thing I saw all weekend. Okay, we don't have it, but we'll pull it up. So basically, in the tailgate in Philadelphia, outside the stadium, you guys they brought a weight bench, and then they've got a bar with 45 plates, one on each side, and they're fans pumping iron, and then they get one of the cops who is doing security in the parking lot. He comes over and starts doing reps as well. That's a commitment to a tailgate. Not only you're bringing beer, you're bringing food, a barbecue, and you're bringing the weight set out of the garage to pump iron.
That's pretty fun. It's a little smarter, a little more cerebral than the Buffalo Bills, who bring a collapsible table and jump onto it in their drunkenness. So I'll give them credit for creativity, and also, hey, they're getting fit. What's wrong with that?
No, I thought that was good. All right. Eric Francis joins us Mondays and Wednesdays. We go inside the NHL for Southie Mainline Chrysler. It's worth the drive every time, guaranteed. Southie Mainline Chrysler, just 30 minutes south of Regina. All right, Eric, have fun flipping channels tonight between Monday Night Raw and the Flame. And that's on, if you've forgotten, Monday Night Raw is on Netflix. And the Flames game is going to be on Amazon Prime. So if you got to be good with the apps on the remote. This is just not normal channel flicking. You got to be back, forth, back, forth, back, forth. Flames will take on Chicago. Everybody. That game gets rolling just after 6 o'clock. All right, time to take a break. When we come back, there's a little bit of baseball news. The Toronto Blue Jays, could they or should they be in the running for one of the most sought-after free agents that could be playing in the majors next season? Probably it's a should thing. And we're also going to hear Dave Thomas, voice of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and Corey Mace at the coaches' meetings going on in North Carolina from earlier today. Stand by. It's the all-new Sportscage, streaming at sportscage.com and on the radio at 620 CKRM.
When the Saskatchewan weather turns cold, you can turn to Bronco Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling for water heater and water softener rentals. Bronco is back to renting water heaters and water softeners, so you can set your mind at ease when the colder weather hits. Bronco will send the best qualified and professional tradespeople who will take care of all the maintenance for you, so you can enjoy a hot shower with soft water. Bronco Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Since 1978. Call 781-2090. Learn more at broncoplumbing.com. They treat you right.
Oh, it's freezing. I think we're going to turn up the heat on trades at Capital Ford Lincoln. How would you like a brand new vehicle for the same or similar payment to what you got right now? Well, with the help of a giant $2,500 trade-in bonus, it's doable. That means prices are as low as $170 weekly plus tax on a brand new F-150. Plus, Capital's 100K giveaway is back. Check out capital100k.ca for your chance to win amazing prizes. Capital Ford Lincoln, proud member of the Capital Automotive Group.
At Fries Tallman, we know that you have a lot of options when it comes to purchasing lumber and other building materials. We'd like to take this time to thank you for choosing us to supply your building materials for over 65 years. We're proud to have been a part of turning your plans into reality. So for all of your upcoming projects, see Fries Tallman in Regina and Fort Capel. Let's get you building.
The all-new Sportscage is live streaming from our Century Studios in downtown Regina. Watch now at sportscage.com. Be part of the show by texting 306-936-6262. 620 CKRM.
Monday edition of the all-new Sportscage, and it's a chilly afternoon, but hope is on the way. What are we talking about? Did they say the temperature's going to rise overnight to, it's like minus 21 right now. It's like to minus 14 and eventually minus 7 in the next couple of days before it gets freezing cold again by the weekend. So the best days of the week here are to come here in the middle and then get ready for another cold weekend. All right, time now for our clutch performer for Nick's service in Emerald Park. We got to go. I mean, this is Team Canada with a Sasky angle. Team Canada beat the United States 3-0 to win the 2025 Women's Under-18 World Championships in Finland. Saskatchewan striker Zablocki, friend of the show, had 8 goals and 12 points to lead the tournament. She is your clutch performer for Nick's service in Emerald Park. Did you guys happen to watch any of that? Like, they were... The one thing that it was a dominant win over the States. The U.S. team only had, I think, 13 shots in the game, which just seemed incredibly low. It just didn't seem like, because the States and Canada being the two best teams, it just seemed like Canada was just so dominant from start to finish in that game that the Americans just didn't have a chance.
Yeah, it's not every day we shut out the U.S. in the gold medal game. So
no.
Yeah.
And that's where, and when I looked at the shot total, I was like, well, wait a minute. Like, at first typo, I'm like, what? They only had 13 shots? Like, I understand when they were playing some of the other countries, if, that would have been, but against the U.S., and I'm like, no, that's right. So congratulations, strikers Zablocki and the rest of Team Canada in the under-18. Hey, listen, somebody playing junior hockey in Canada did the nation proud here in the month of January. We're not naming names. We're not putting anybody else in it, but we're just gonna say, yeah. I saw this. Now keep in mind,
not 13.
Oh, 14? Okay.
Yeah.
Not the 13.
Give them
okay.
their due.
All right. So I'm not the most excitable Toronto Blue Jays fan out there. Not like some people who live and die on everything. And it's been a rough off season. There's not a lot of bright spots. Last week, this was Vlad Guerrero. The 1-year deal avoided arbitration. He signed the $28.5 million deal, so we know that. What's the over-under? Do you think that if he's getting $28.5 million, do you think he hits 28 home runs? Is he like $1 million a home run guy? Because the reason why I asked that, do you think because he did the arbitration deal this year that it's whatever and then he's gone next year? He's truly gone to free agency?
Maybe. I could see him going over. If the 28.5 is his over-under for home runs this year, I could see him going over and then the Blue Jays not being willing to put up the money again and he's off. I could see that happening, this whole circus show all over again. unless they actually make a run and he wants to stay, but it's the Blue Jays.
It is the Blue Jays. And speaking of people that are excitable, if you follow on Twitter, there are a lot of, it's confirmed that the Jays met with highly coveted free agent pitcher Roki Sasaki in Toronto last week. Is he a Shohei Ohtani? No, but he's been one of the best pitchers in the Japanese league for a bunch of years now. Is he 27 or 28 years old?
Shohei?
Yeah, like no, not Shohei, Roki Sasaki. So he met with the Blue Jays last week. Does that mean anything? No, because he's in North America meeting with a bunch of teams as they are putting their best foot and their offers forward, to say, hey, this is something. But I don't know. Like,
Roki's a 2001 born. He's 23.
Okay. Sorry, the age wrong. But one of the best pitchers in the Japanese league in baseball. And he's one of the most sought-after free agents. Like, the potential's there. If this is your first foray to North America and you're going to be signing with any team anywhere, do you think out of all the teams in Major League Baseball that it would be the Toronto Blue Jays when there's some much more attractive options out there? You've got, 2 New York teams. You've got all the teams on the coast. You've got a bunch of options. Not saying that the Blue Jays money and those checks wouldn't cash, but we've been down this road before. If you're delusional thinking that Ohtani and Soto were coming here, I don't necessarily know there's any truth to that. Whether Sasaki, and keep in mind, if you're his agent, it's just about getting the most money and the longest deal that you possibly can because there's something in it for them. And whether that means it's in Toronto, I don't know. And the other thing too, if he was visiting in winter, what was the weather like there last week? Because if it was a full-on Canadian winter, that's probably a bit of a turnoff, because I know that they would get winter conditions in Japan, but they wouldn't get anything like they would if we were getting a true harsh Canadian winter situation. I don't think it was that bad. I saw a bunch of news clips, some people on the sidewalk protesting or getting arrested. The weather didn't look bad. Now, maybe I had my cities wrong, but it didn't look like they had ice and snow like we have.
Yeah, they were barely into the double-digit negatives last week.
Yeah, okay.
So...
Yeah.
And most of the time they were hanging in just the -1 to 5 range, so he would have been fine. Japan gets winter and snow too. He would have been fine.
Sure, they do, but They don't get a a Canadian.
They don't get -45.
No. 306-936-6262. What do you think of the big news coming from the Saskatchewan Roughriders today, signing Jameer Thurman to a 2-year contract extension? Jameer Thurman is going nowhere. He was one of our most coveted free agents, and J.O.'s got him locked up. They also locked up Malik Carney for the 2025 season as well. So it's been a good day in Riderville. If you're Rider Nation, you're happy. If you're one of those people that wants to commit to a name on a jersey, Thurman for 2 years, we're good to go. The CFL winter meetings are on in Charlotte, North Carolina over the next couple of days. And they're there because the American Football Coaches Association convention is on, and the CFL teams are talking to the American coaches, and they're selling the games. Well, Dave Thomas had a chance to catch up with Corey Mace earlier today, and this is their conversation from the CFL winter meetings.
Head coach Corey Mace of the Saskatchewan Roughriders joins us. And coach, as we turn the page from 2024 to 2025, we take one last opportunity perhaps to look back. And you look at the amount of change that there was within the organization. And I know that the ultimate goal is a Grey Cup championship, but would you suggest that the foundation that you laid and the way that you were able to take such a huge step forward, not only just making the playoffs, but also hosting a playoff game and getting to the Western Final, was that a huge step forward in the development and growth moving into this year?
Great question, man. And something that, I'm looking forward to talking with the guys with. Ultimately, I do get the sense and the feeling that, our fan base, and I felt like people thought we kind of maybe exceeded an expectation, but the reality of it is the expectation of what we wanted in the building, we fell short, period. I can't tell you guys enough about the belief that we had in that locker room and in that building. So for us, we're just excited to be a better version of us. Like you look at how our season went, even the record, what it was, there's just so much for us to improve on everywhere, myself obviously included in that. guys are excited about that. So I was very pleased for us to take the step and not only attaining the home run playoff game and winning one, get to the West Final, but now we understand we have the experience of being in a big game like that. We want to push forward, obviously, to the next one, to the biggest one, and find a way to win that. So, but the belief, I got no doubt in my mind, how these guys are going to attack it. But I don't want anybody to be satisfied with last year's results. And I'd say the same thing, honestly, if we ended up winning the last game of the season too. So excited to get back to work.
Year over year, you kind of talked about it a little bit, but when you're prepping for 2025, are you changing anything, or are you where you want to be in terms of where you were at this point last year to where you are now? And are there any intentional changes that you've brought in from yourself moving forward?
Yeah, great question, Dave. Good to see you, buddy. There's definitely changes. And it's not necessarily even just from a culture standpoint or anything like that. Schematic changes, changes in identifying, personnel is going to be changes for you as well, of how you call things. There's definitely a multitude of things that you think about mentally, and or you talk with your staff or your players about you want to do differently when you have time to assess in totality of what the 24 season brought us. It's great. Like I said, it's great just to have the relationship that we have, the staff members, and to have guys living full time in Regina, because you can bounce ideas like that, casually. Through text, in the office, or when our families are hanging together, we're celebrating kids' birthdays or having a water together. You know what I mean? So things like that, man. It's awesome.
Hydration obviously is very important, Coach, and I appreciate that over the holidays. You don't get an opportunity to hang with your colleagues and your peers in a forum like you do right now at these meetings very often. What do you hope to take away from some of those conversations and interactions this week?
No, this is the time. It's so fun to be around. Specifically, I'm staring over here and Killam's talking to Naylor. Right, like me and Killam go back for years, and to see him, here is, I'm so just happy for him, and getting to spend time with guys, I don't get to spend a lot of time with, the Bobby Dices, or the Mike O'Shea's and Buck Pierce. It's great to sit down with these guys and not only talk ball, and sometimes depending on coaches, like I try to pick everybody's brain about a lot of things, specifically guys who've done it longer than me. Because I'm curious, and if they're going to give me an answer, like, who am I not to ask, So it's just awesome to be in this atmosphere, and us, representing the league. I think down here at this platform is really cool, man, and being able to share those stories not only amongst ourselves, but with all these awesome coaches down here at the FCA.
Coach, over the last number of days, we've been fortunate to hear of a number of players that have re-signed with your team. How important is that continuity to carry over into 2025?
J.O. and I, and Kyle, Paul, we spoke about that in the first year of just identifying things that, we wanted to go after. Obviously, we made a huge splash in free agency, in a multitude of spots last year. Thought process after that is, if obviously you like the product that you have, and guys want to be there, and you feel like you can win with certain people, you try to retain obviously as many as you can. And you don't necessarily have to make big splashes in free agency, because that you have the ingredients of who you sourced out in the first place, on top of people who are already under contract. So continuity is key. And I would say that from a player in the locker room standpoint, and hopefully in the coaches, from a coach's staff standpoint as well. And inevitably, this is pro sports. You're going to lose people, but you just hope to replace them with great people. And I'm really looking forward to that.
Now, there's obviously roster continuity, but there's also continuity within the coaching staff. And you're going to have a couple of new faces in Travis Brown and Josh Donnelly joining your crew.
No, they're really, really pleased with that. First, we're losing a heck of a coach in J.C. Sheridan. What an opportunity for him, and obviously wish him nothing but the most success outside of obviously playing there. But the addition of Travis Brown to replace him, a coach's son, he's been around the game forever. Obviously with CFL experience and, every room, he coached JC even. So any room he's been a part of throughout his coaching career in the CFL, tremendous performances from his guys in those linebacker rooms. So love talking ball with him already. Really excited to get him in the building and keep pushing from there. And then the addition of Josh Donnelly, I don't want to set the bar high, but kind of a similar transition for Mark Mueller, right? We're starting him on the offense side as opposed to the defensive side, but his knowledge of the game and what he was able to do for the Rams, specifically this last year, and I also think having him come to training camp as a guest coach to kind of just learn and seeing his work ethic so far, as he's already been in the building, he understands it. So excited for his future, mostly for him to learn this year, but definitely also to assist our team, specifically on the offensive side, man. But really, really pleased to keep it to keep him, at home and with us. So it's exciting for him and exciting for us.
Staying with your staff coach, Mace, J.C. Sharon moves on to Edmonton as the defensive coordinator there. He was your run game coordinator last year. So him moving on, how does that change the dynamic within your defensive coaches group?
Yeah, I think just easier for me to talk with J.C. because we'd worked together before. So we kind of knew how each other operates as far as building together a run plan. But I do plan on doing kind of the same stuff with Travis as well. I just have never had the pleasure to work with Travis, so it's going to be a little bit more of a learning curve for us getting to know each other and how we like to game plan and collabing from that standpoint. But talking with him already, I know he's very detailed. We were just texting last night about some ideas and stuff. So it'll still probably be kind of the same roundabout way. JC and I would do a lot of stuff together, and Coach Phil Daniels. So I'm looking forward to that, man. And even really truthfully with you, Daryl, just having him working in different staffs, I'm very curious of different things that he would know that he can bring to the defense to give us different looks and hopefully, obviously, make us even better than what we were as it pertains to the run game, for sure.
On a cold winter day in January, can you hear the excitement in that man's voice talking Rider football? The CFL winter meetings are on in Charlotte, North Carolina for the next couple of days. That's Saskatchewan Roughrider head coach Corey Mace and voice of the Riders, Dave Thomas. I believe we're going to hear from Dave Dickinson before the end of the show as well. Dave had a chance to chat with him. His thought, speaking of off-season changes, the Stamps announcing the other day that they signed Reggie Begelton. He was signed up for this season, and they signed him to an extra year. So he's there for the next couple of years. And he's been one of the guys, he's one of the holdovers from the old Bo Levi Mitchell days, and he lived through the Jake Mayer era. And I heard an interview with him earlier today, and he wants to be part of the success and the future that they're building with the Stampeders. Some other CFL news today before we go to a quick break. The Alouettes have signed McLeod Bethel-Thompson to a 1-year deal. And the Saskatchewan Roughriders have signed Jameer Thurman to a 2-year extension and Malik Carney to a 1-year extension. And you can read all about that at sportscage.com. All right, time for a break. When we come back, we'll dive into the NFL. We found the video of the dudes pumping iron in the parking lot before the Eagles game. And there's a lot of people not happy with Mike Tomlin and the Steelers and how they got pretty much destroyed by the Baltimore Ravens on the weekend. A lot of people calling for his job. A real interesting take from an NFL personality that I respect. Stick close. We'll do that next. It's the all-new Sports Cage on 620 CKRM, and we're streaming at sportscage.com.
CoolBet has all the hot games. For all the free-to-play casino games, head to coolbet.co. They've got sports odds, including Saskatchewan senior hockey, plus all the sports odds you can think of. From the ice to the field to the court, CoolBet has you covered. All at your fingertips. No risk, just thrill. So why wait? Get in the game and embrace the unexpected at coolbet.co.
Oh, it's freezing. I think we're going to turn up the heat on trades at Capital Ford Lincoln. How would you like a brand new vehicle for the same or similar payment to what you got right now? Well, with the help of a giant $2,500 trade-in bonus, it's doable. That means prices are as low as $170 weekly plus tax on a brand new F-150. Plus, Capital's 100K giveaway is back. Check out capital100k.ca for your chance to win amazing prizes. Capital Ford Lincoln, proud member of the Capital Automotive Group.
We want your business on board for the Harvard Media online auction. It's easy. All you've got to do is provide items like gift cards, experiences, services, or whatever cool product you have. And in exchange, we'll give you a world-class marketing campaign. No entry fee or cash outlay, just a good old trade deal. That hammer could be coming down for you. Just hit up harvardmedia.com and join in on all the excitement. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back to the all-new Sports Cage. Connect with the show. Call 1-866-767-0620 or text 306-936-6262.
You know, if you've missed anything we've done so far today, you can always catch the podcast, Apple and Spotify, or you can just go to sportscage.com. Everything will be neatly packaged there. You'll get the whole show as one, or we'll chop it down into segments. Rob Vanstone, we had on in hour one, talking all things, including rescue dogs and the ugly uniforms the Denver Broncos were wearing, to Eric Francis and what he will and won't be watching tonight while the Flames take on the Chicago Blackhawks. Wildcard weekend wraps tonight with the LA Rams hosting the Minnesota Vikings at State Farm Stadium in Arizona. Kickoff will go just after 6 o'clock. And the football games, for the most part, weren't interesting. So probably one of the most unique things. Colson, do we have this ready to go? Dudes in the parking lot in Philly pumping iron. And then they got one of the cops working security to come along and do some reps. Now, Colson, Alan, between the three of us, do you think that because what does that bar weigh? Probably about 40, 45 pounds, and that's a 45 plate on each side. Do you think between the three of us, we could crank out 20 reps between the three of us?
I want to see, I'll be optimistic and say yes.
Al,
just looking at myself,
weight? Like, are you like
no.
an animal in the gym? Yeah.
Sure.
I was counting on Al as being the wild.
Yeah, the sheriff really pounds the iron.
Nice. I like that. We may have to do some warm-up sets. I don't think that we can start just at 45. We're going to have to warm up with the bar. And then the other thing, too, I'm hoping that the cop wasn't drinking, but for the average fan, if you were there, you're probably half in the bag, right? Before you sit down to do your reps?
Probably. But,
that's about average, yeah.
Well, yeah, liquid courage. That always helps.
All right. Well, just let me know if there's a good spot, by the Durant Center where we can do this next year before Rider games. I mean, it doesn't take much. We just got to borrow a pickup truck and we'll get the weights out of the garage and we'll just do this.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Just do some fundraising. It'll be a breeze.
All right. The Baltimore Ravens dismantled the Pittsburgh Steelers. For the Steelers, that was their 8th playoff loss in a row under Mike Tomlin. He did win a Super Bowl as head coach, but things weren't going well. And then the fallout happens because football fans, we love to overreact, right? We lose, we fire. We lose, we fire. And on Sunday morning, Kyle Brandt from the NFL Network had this to say about Mike Tomlin and the situation in Pittsburgh. Have a listen to this.
What I'm going to talk about is not fun, but I think we owe it to the fans. During the middle of the game, in about the third quarter, I went to the trending topics just to see what the most popular topics were. It was not Lamar. It was not Derrick Henry. It was not Ravens. The number one trending topic in the United States was just Tomlin. Tomlin. That is the number one. And there's a lot of idiocy that went on that trending topic if you kicked on it. So let's just stick to the facts. This was a 10-3 team that completely fell apart and lost 5 in a row to end the season. This is now 8 straight seasons without a playoff win to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And this was undignified. The first half of that game was undignified. It's also unprecedented. Chuck Noll never went more than 4 seasons without a playoff win. Bill Cowher never went more than 3 seasons without a playoff win. We have now gone 8. And you say, well, he can't figure out the quarterback. And I understand. I look around the league and I see teams with rookies and retreads and 7th-round picks winning playoff games. And there is this take, which I agree with, I think we all do, that if the Steelers were ever to part ways with Mike Tomlin, there'd be 25 teams lining up to hire him. And I agree. I also think there's 25 teams in the league that would be thrilled to make the playoffs every year. It's great. We get to the playoffs. It's awesome. We can do business. We're done. But I think there is a very exclusive fraternity of teams in the league that would hate just making the playoffs every year because they stand for something different. The Steelers are not only in that fraternity, they're the president of it. 8 straight years. It's not working. It's getting worse. It was undignified last night. And whether it's talking about a trade or saying it's not working anymore and let's make a move, I do think it's time to consider a divorce. And I know that's very heavy, and we celebrate Tomlin. I have to serve the fans, and I think it's what the fans are saying.
That's a great take. All right, we got to take a quick break here. Our resident football expert, our quarterback, we're going to ask him some questions about the new quarterback that's coming to town in Jake Maier. Darian Durant coming up after the top of the hour. It's Double Talk on the all-new Sportscage right here on 620 CKRM.
Hey, it's me, Terry, the Talking Tire. Have I got something for you? Regina Motor Products has got instant rebates on all the top brands when you buy a set of 4 tires. That's a $120 rebate on new Bridgestone Blizzak tires, $90 rebate on new Pirelli Ice Zero Asymmetrical tires, or $70 rebate on all other Pirelli tires, $90 rebate on new Firestone winter tires, $65 rebate on new Michelin tires, and $50 rebate on new BF Goodrich tires. Regina Motor Products has your winter tires. Visit rmpchevrolet.com.
Regina's Greek community invites you to an Evening in Greece 2025 gala on Saturday, March 8th at Delta Regina. Cocktails and reception are at 5:30. Then enjoy authentic Greek cuisine with live entertainment and dance to follow. You could even win a dream vacation for 2 to Greece. That's an Evening in Greece 2025 gala Saturday, March 8th at Delta Regina. Get your tickets by calling 306-536-4299, email eigYQR@gmail.com, or check them out on Facebook. In support of the Hospitals of Regina Foundation.
You know something? It's like selling a 6-pack with only 5 beers in it. Wood Country Woody here, reminding you that unlike some other places, Wood Country Garage Packages contains everything you need, right from the start, including appearance-grade lumber, all your nails and screws, and walk-in doors with cladded jambs. Built in a garage? It's one and done with Wood Country.
Your home is your castle.
In McLean, Estevan, and Tisdale. Shop online. wood-country.com.
Good evening. It's partly cloudy and it's minus 22 in Regina. I'm Corey Atkinson from the Harvard Media News Center with 620 CKRM News for Echo Sound and Fort Capel. Stay connected with a new cell phone from Echo Sound. Call 306-332-6711. A collision on Highway 7 west of Laura, Saskatchewan on Sunday night left one person dead and another injured. Warman RCMP responded to the crash at about 10:50 p.m. An SUV and a pickup truck collided, killing the SUV's driver, a 42-year-old from Airdrie, Alberta. His family has been notified. The truck's driver suffered non-life-threatening injuries and was taken to hospital. The highway was closed temporarily for the investigation but has since reopened. An illegal border crossing near Val-Marie led to an international investigation and charges against 2 19-year-old men. On January 6th, U.S. Border Patrol notified the RCMP of a man crossing into Canada and back into the U.S. A search of the area by RCMP officers uncovered a prohibited pistol. Further investigation led to a search of a Saskatoon home where RCMP found chemicals, firearms, ammunition, and prohibited devices. The pair face several charges, including smuggling and illegal firearm possession. They are scheduled to appear in court on February 12th as the investigation continues. A BC doctor who treated a 13-year-old avian flu patient says the case has made him concerned about the potential for more human H5N1 infections. Dr. David Goldfarb treated the patient for 2 months until she was discharged from BC Children's Hospital last week. He says North America has been relatively sheltered from the spread of avian flu until this point.
What's different about our current era is that we are now, for the first time, seeing severe locally acquired avian influenza. So it is something that we'll likely, unfortunately, continue to see in North America.
A Canada Food Inspection Agency dashboard shows more than 3,400 positive samples of avian flu have been confirmed in wildlife in the country. The battle against the Los Angeles area wildfires continues to have an effect on the entertainment industry.
Several projects and awards shows have been delayed, including the Oscar nominations being pushed back almost a week from their original date. Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, announced she wouldn't launch a Netflix lifestyles program until March. Entertainment organizations are continuing to donate to fire relief, with the Screen Actors Guild pledging $1 million to help its members affected by the blazes. I'm Haya Panjwani.
And a federal judge says the U.S. Justice Department can release special counsel Jack Smith's investigative report on President-elect Donald Trump's 2020 election interference case.
The ruling from the U.S. District Judge, who was appointed to the bench by Trump, is the latest back and forth in a court dispute over the report from the special counsel who prosecuted Trump in 2 cases the Justice Department abandoned in November. Earlier, the judge had temporarily blocked the department from releasing the report. She later cleared the way for the release of the volume on Trump's 2020 election interference case. Haya Panjwani, Washington.
It's 5:04, and that's your 620 CKRM News. Read more stories from around your community and around the province at sasktoday.ca and 620ckrm.com. Your weather is next.
Oh, finally! There it is!
Whoa, did you order pizza?
No, even better. I called Echo Sound, your SaskTel authorized dealer.
Oh, so what'd you order?
Well, they have all the top-of-the-line smartphones with all the latest features, and so many great plans, man.
Oh, nice.
Oh, it is the pizza guy. Hey, guy.
Tell him to go away. We're waiting on Echo Sound.
Echo Sound, your SaskTel authorized dealer in Fort Quipel. EchoSound.ca.
We'll still take the pizza, though.
Hey farmers, the crop production show is here. Come on down and meet Core Grain and Hall C, booths C44 and C45 to chat with our experts about smarter grain storage and handling solutions. Core Grain is your trusted partner for grain storage solutions across the prairies, dedicated to offering you the best grain storage and handling systems. We work tirelessly to customize grain monitoring and conditioning systems to fit your specific vineyard plan, now and in the future. Core Grain, doing the right thing for your farm. See you at the Crop Production Show.
It's 5:05, and I'm Corey Atkinson with your 620 CKRM Precision Weather Forecast, brought to you by Line-X Regina. Serious protection, killer looks, 1865 McCarra Street, and for Croft Electric. 27 years of trusted, reliable home, farm, and commercial service for all electrical needs. CroftElectric.com and all socials. Now here's Precision Weather meteorologist Steve Adamson.
We'll see a bit of a rise in our temperatures over the course of the next couple of days. Tonight, clouds will be increasing. We could see a few flurries later tonight. A 40% chance. The low temperature near minus 22, but it'll be rising as the night progresses. Tuesday, a 30% chance of some early flurries, then cloudiness thinning to a mixture of sunshine and cloud cover. Not as cold, with the high temperature around minus 7. Tuesday night, partly cloudy skies, breezy with rising temperatures. The low near minus 11, then rising through the overnight period. Those winds will be out of the south to southwest, gusting to around 40. Wednesday, temperatures continue to moderate with a brisk breeze, along with a mixture of sunshine and cloud cover, the high near 1. Winds gusting to around 50. For Thursday, partly sunny skies, although there will be the chance for some light snow developing Thursday night. The high temperature near 1. Friday turns colder with cloudy skies, chance of light snow to start the day. Temperatures falling to minus 14. With your 620 CKRM weather forecast, I'm meteorologist Steve Adamson.
Across the province at this hour, Saskatoon is minus 13, Swift Current minus 8, Assiniboia minus 13, Broadview Moosomin minus 24, Yorkton Melville minus 25, Estevan minus 23, and Weyburn is minus 22. At this hour in Moose Jaw, there's some light snow. Winds are from the east at 17, and it's minus 13. Regina is partly cloudy. Winds are from the southeast at 20, and it's minus 22. For more local news that matters to you, subscribe to our daily newsletter at sasktoday.ca.
When you want the best for your truck, you want Line-X. Your truck has withstood the harshest elements Saskatchewan has thrown at it. Rocks, gravel, rain, sleet, and snow, and left with no chips, no rust. Line-X protective coating keeps your truck's bed liners, rocker panels, and bumpers looking like brand new. Don't settle for Brand X. Go with Line-X. It's serious protection. Come see why everybody loves taking their truck to Line-X Regina for their rocker panels, bumpers, and more. Line-X. Make your truck complete. 1865 McCarra Street.
At Freeze Tallman, we know that you have a lot of options when it comes to purchasing lumber and other building materials. We'd like to take this time to thank you for choosing us to supply your building materials for over 65 years. We're proud to have been a part of turning your plans into reality. So for all of your upcoming projects, see Freeze Tallman in Regina and Fort Capel.
Let's get you building.
Broadcasting from Century Studios in downtown Regina, Harvard Media presents the all-new Sports Cage, where Saskatchewan comes to talk local sports. Brought to you by Kellen Solar. 35 years of experience moving water from a dugout or well without electricity. Visit KELLNsolar.com to find out more for your livestock operation. Be a part of the show. Call 1-866-767-0620 or text 306-936-6262. The all-new Sports Cage. Streaming at sportscage.com and on the radio at 620 CKRM.
Final hour of the show on a Monday, filling in for the injured Barney Shinkarak, who is on the one-game injured list. It's Maz here. Tonight, the wild card weekend will wrap with the Minnesota Vikings in Glendale, Arizona, to take on the LA Rams. The game moved because of the fires. That'll get rolling here just after 7 o'clock. Should be a good game. If you're, as they call it, sprinkling, if you've got your app open, the Vikings 2.5-point favorites. But as we've talked, after what that game against Detroit and how they looked, and Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford, a one-game playoff on the road, and they've been there before, I don't know. One thing we do know, the NFL lives at the Canadian Brewhouse with a chance to win a trip to an NFL home opener of your choice. They've got $1 off tankards and Bud Light and Budweiser. Details at thecanadianbrewhouse.com. It is Monday, and so that means another edition of Double Talk with our Grey Cup champion, Plaza of Honor quarterback, Darian Durant. So let's go out on the Western Pizza guest hotline. There's my guy. Happy New Year, my friend. I haven't talked to you in a while. How are you?
Same to you, buddy. I'm good. How are you?
Oh, good. I love that smile. So here's the thing. I'm watching the Jake Mayer press conference on Friday, and he's saying all the right things because he's coming to Rider Nation and all, like it is. Be honest. You may say all the right things, but do you really have no idea what it's like to play quarterback for the Saskatchewan Roughriders until you're in it playing quarterback for the Saskatchewan Roughriders?
Exactly. I mean, there's no comparison around the league. I mean, it's just something about being the QB in Saskatchewan, and especially coming from Calgary. And this is no offense to Stampeder fans, but it's just another level of pressure. It's just another level of atmosphere, environment, you name it, man. So being in Saskatchewan is definitely different. And, you can say all the right things, like you said, but it's nothing like it until you actually get in this, into the fire and see what it's like yourself.
Well, so here's like last year when they were going through their struggles in Calgary, and Calgary's a hockey city. The Flames are number one. Jake Mayer is not going to get harassed going to a grocery store in Calgary, a city of 1.66 million people, when things are all going wrong. Yeah. But as you well know, if you're on a 6 or 7 game seven game losing streak in the middle of a football season last year, there's nowhere to hide, right? When you played here, there was no grocery delivery service. So who did you have to pay to go get groceries with Darian Durant money because things weren't going well? Because there was no delivery back then.
Yeah, I had to wake up at 1 or 2 in the morning and sneak to a 24-hour grocery store. But I mean, it's a little bit different, and not only will you hear it from the fans out in the community, but the media. I mean, the media hears what the rumblings across the fan base. The media knows exactly what's going on, and the media comes directly to you with these tough questions. I mean, in these days of how things are run, it's all about clickbait. It's all about getting eyes on your site or on your story, and controversy sells. So whenever there's a downtime in Rider Nation, you're going to hear from the fans, and the media is going to bring it to you as well.
And probably the other thing that he doesn't realize, which you could probably write a small novel on, is now that he is signed with a certain football team, there is a whole fan base that have blue and gold jerseys that automatically hate this guy, and he's never done a thing to them. He's done nothing at all. But now any Winnipeg Blue Bomber fan has a reason to not like Jake Mayer. I wonder what his messages are already like on Twitter from just random people doing drive-by shots now that he's part of Riderville.
Yeah, you know it's bad. That's how it is.
Some good news coming from the Riders today. I had said this. The most important free agent that they had to sign was Jameer Thurman. They lock him up, 2-year extension. You agree with what J.O. did here, getting a core piece and locking him down?
Absolutely. I think, yeah, we talked about this, as free agents, as the season was coming upon, coming close to ending. And we talked about who are the guys that needed to be re signed immediately, who are the guys that the Riders can't be without. And Jameer Thurman was one of those guys. He's the heart and soul of that defense. He's the playmaker. And for Coach Mace, you need a veteran guy at that middle linebacker position. He makes all the calls, he makes the checks. He gets guys lined up, and not only that, he's just a great leader. He's a great locker room guy, great character guy. You don't have to worry about seeing his name in the headlines for anything negative. So whenever you can bring back a huge piece of your team who is just a stand-up guy and an amazing player at that, you have to do that. So kudos to Jo for making sure that Jameer Thurman stays in Riderville because that would have been a big loss, and he's the absolute heart of that defense.
Yeah, he is. He's 29, he'll be 31 when the deal expires. And if he keeps playing the way he is, there's no reason that, he would stop anytime soon. Riders also making news earlier in the day before the Jameer Thurman signing, a Malik Carney signing, 1 year. I was chatting with Rob Vanstone earlier. I thought the first third of the season, we didn't see the Malik Carney that we saw in the 2/3. Now, some are saying he had some injuries he was dealing with and also picking up the new Corey Mays scheme. But I thought in the final 2/3 of the season, we saw Malik Carney that was a force in Hamilton, and one of the reasons why we signed him as a free agent.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, whenever you have lower body injuries, they just nag you and they take away your explosiveness. And I think when you saw a healthy Malik Carney, you saw what the potential was for him. I had a chance to speak with him. He's a fellow Tar Heel as well. But I had a chance to speak with him when I was in town for Plaza. And, he loves that team. He loves the scheme. It's just all about being healthy for him. So if he can stay healthy, have a good off season, and be able to contribute week in and week out, I think you'll see a double-digit sack guy, and that's something that the Riders' defense has been missing.
Speaking of double-digit sacks, we've had Charleston Hughes on the show quite a bit, and he's quite disgusted that this past season the sack leaders had 8. He said he would have had that by the 5th or 6th game, let alone that wouldn't lead the season. Oh, you mentioned North Carolina. Just checking. Any calls from Belichick yet?
No, I'm way too small, on a small scale for Belichick, man. But I've talked to some guys in the office that have spoken with him, and what I can say is nothing has changed. Whatever you've seen in New England from just being closed mouth and don't let anything out, and he keeps the emotions in and the temperature of the team. He keeps that under wraps. They say he's the exact same guy. He won't say a word about what's going on, what he's thinking, guys he's interested in. You just see it on ESPN when it pops up, just like everyone else.
Nice.
So,
okay.
I like that about
we're playing
Bill
we're playing our cards close to the vest. So the Darian Durant, Bill Belichick, North Carolina thing. We'll break it first, but we're not there yet. Other news in the CFL today: McLeod Bethel Thompson signs a 1-year deal with Montreal to back up Davis Alexander, who's going to be a first-year starter. Once again, Danny Machocha making another smart football move, and Jason Moss now has an insurance policy for Davis Alexander, and a really good one, because McLeod Bethel Thompson, what did Vanstone say earlier in the show, had over 20 touchdown passes last year? So if anything happens, there's no drop-off there if he has to go into the game.
Not at all. I mean, I think this is the best insurance policy at quarterback in the league. This is a guy who's a Grey Cup champion, has proven that he can play. I don't think the situation was right last year in Edmonton. It was just, coaching turmoil. I mean, just should Trey Ford play? Should he not? As a quarterback, it's just not a good environment. You can't focus. You can't lock in. And then with the pressure of dealing with Chris Jones and not being able to win games, and it was just so much pressure in Edmonton last year. And I think this will be a great start, start over place for Bethel Thompson, and in a situation where your head coach was a quarterback, he understands. So it's a great position to be
in. Speaking of Chris Jones, part of the Chris Jones era here in Saskatchewan, one of the brightest highlights for me was drafting linebacker Cam Judge. And in a bit of a shocker move, on Friday traded from the Calgary Stampeders to the Toronto Argonauts for American D lineman Fullerin or Malade. This will totally change the ratio in how Toronto is doing, how they're going to play defense. But there's also a rumor out there that they've asked over 20 guys. They haven't asked. 20 guys have to take pay cuts so they can stay under the salary cap, and this will help with that. I always liked him as a rider. I've liked him as a player. I love how he plays. There's that honesty about him. They're just something. But this is a really good trade for both teams. One that I don't think anybody saw coming, because Ormalade, dude, was wrecking. He's been wrecking people playing D-line for the past couple of years. Like that's a dominant defensive piece that, like, I wish that we as Rider fans, that we had a guy like that was just wrecking teams and scheme.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to wonder with this move what this says about McManus coming back to Toronto as well. I mean, he's going to definitely command a hefty raise in his salary. And, I think bringing in a veteran like Cam Judge, you want a veteran at one of those linebacker spots. So this says to me that, they may be moving on from McManus. But just like you said, I've always been a Cam Judge fan. I think he played wonderfully in Calgary. I'm surprised to see them let him go because of his production. I mean, he's a linebacker that gets interceptions like DBs. So that's very hard to find. He has an excellent feel for zone coverage. He understands route concepts. So whenever you can find a player that seems to have a knack for being able to cause turnovers and make plays, that's a special trait. So I was surprised to see Calgary let him go, a player that, makes so many plays for that defense.
So, and I'm wondering, because general managers talk, and it's usually they know who's out there and who's available. I'm wondering, has he been available for a while and the deal just closed, or is this, I wonder if this was just a straight Calgary-Toronto transaction, guy for guy, hey, we want to do this, we want to do that. Because I think if Cam Judge kind of hits the open rumor market with a bunch of general managers in the CFL, we'll hold the phone. There may be other teams that are interested. You've always said, since we started doing this, it'll be a year here in a couple of months, that the Saskatchewan Roughriders need a wide receiver, somebody that can take the top off the defense and scare some defenses. And I know that I read a thing on the weekend that the Elks are trying hard to sign a Geno Lewis. Could you imagine how scary our receiving core could be with a guy like a Geno Lewis, even as a decoy? How much space that would open up? Now, if you're general manager and you got the purse strings, would he be at the top of your free agent list as far as wide receivers go, like a game changer for the Riders?
He would be for me. I mean, I'm a guy that firmly believes in order to have success in the CFL, you need to have playmakers. You have to have those 20-plus yard chunk plays and have it on a consistent basis, week in and week out. And whenever you have a guy like Geno Lewis, who is just the king of 50-50 balls, he can make plays. He seems to always be able to find the end zone. He has a knack for getting in the end zone and making big plays. So he would definitely be at the top of my priority list. But with him comes a hefty pay tag. And, I don't know if the Riders are in position to do that, especially, with Trevor being back. I'm sure Jameer Thurman was taken care of as well. And there's some other free agents that would command another payday as well. So I'm just not sure if he'd be able to fit under the salary cap, but he's definitely a guy that I give his agent a call and see where his head is and see if it's something that we could do to make it happen, because he's one of those, generational talents that, like I said, just like Cam Judge, a guy who can make plays, Geno Lewis seems to be the exact same way on the offensive side of the ball.
Well, GM Jeremy O'Day said earlier today, was quoted, "You're never going to get all your guys back. It's just not possible." So you know what? What is the cost, or what is the benefit to us winning a Grey Cup as opposed to the cost of going out and getting a guy? If we had to go over or pay the tax or lose that draft pick, because draft picks don't always work out. Winning, like bringing, what it was like, how life changed bringing a Grey Cup to Rider Nation, and what that does to the fan base and to you and everything. So what are you willing to like, you look at the Bombers, or pardon me, the Lions, and it's just egregious. Salary cap, who cares? Whatever. Give it marketing money. I'm sure if we wanted to get on the phone, we could probably get Gino a marketing opportunity to supplement some whatever to come in, because if that's the cost of winning, to making your team from we're okay, we're good, but now we're elite, because you watch way more film than I do, just with him being wherever he is on the field and the coverage he could draw, which can open up something for somebody else, which what is that worth? What's the cost of winning? I think that's the big thing.
That's the fine line, and that's what makes the GM job so tough. I mean, if you look at the NBA and the way they do things, you look at the Golden State Warriors, the Lakers when they were winning, the Miami Heat when they had LeBron, D Wade, and Chris Bosh. Their owner didn't care about paying the fine at the end of the season. It was all about winning championships. So I think if you know for a fact that you have a team that's able to finish first in the West and could for sure get to the Grey Cup, then I think you throw it out the window and you go all in. But if you have a team that's kind of teetering, whether they're a playoff team or not, then you just can't take the chance and put the team in a bad place financially at the end of the season. So that's what makes being a GM so tough. You have to deal with the good and the bad. You have to deal with losing players if you win. You have to deal with losing players if you're a losing team, because players want to go to a winning environment. So it's a fine line, but I think Saskatchewan definitely has the resources to take care of guys, to make things more lucrative. There are off-season opportunities as well that, if guys would stay around the province in the off-season, it could be very lucrative for them. And I think Saskatchewan needs more guys in the community. I think if the team can show commitment to some of these guys, or more 2 and 3 year deals, when a guy is going to be there for years, then it gives guys more of an opportunity to get in the community and get their face out there and be able to do some things off of the field. So Saskatchewan definitely has the best opportunity when it comes to that, and we'll see if it's able to lure some of these free agents in.
I would say I agree with you. After what we saw last year from the Riders, and we kind of know what the team is comprised of now. Last year was 100% wild card. We had no idea what kind of hand we were holding, whereas now, all right, I think we got as good a shot at anybody going forward, because Winnipeg is not going to not push their chips in. Neither is BC. The Stamps have reloaded. Looks like the Eskimos, like everybody is going all in. All right, let's switch gears. Let's start with some news that maybe hits a little close to home. Tugs at the emotions and the heartstrings for you. Being a Dallas Cowboy fan, it was reported earlier today that Jerry Jones, the Jones family, Jerry World, have decided to part ways with Mike McCarthy. He will become a free agent tomorrow. His contract expires on January 14th to look for other coaching opportunities. Are you sad to see Mike McCarthy go, or did you want him re-signed to be in charge of the Star for another 4 to 5 years?
You know what? I just think that finding a good coach is so hard. And Mike McCarthy is a good coach. It didn't matter if it was Dak Prescott or Cooper Rush or whoever it is. He found ways to win games. And I think that because Jerry Jones and the Jones family, they may be, flirting on the edge of arrogance a little bit. They think that they can just go out and find another guy. And the truth is, it's very hard to do. And you'll see some NFL teams lined up for Mike McCarthy. His resume speaks for itself. He's a Super Bowl champion, and he's won games in Dallas with, he had a great roster 2 years ago, but he still finds ways to win games. And if I'm looking at the Eagles and the Commanders and what they're building, if I'm Mike McCarthy, I may look at this as an opportunity to go elsewhere, because what the Eagles and Commanders have, I don't think Dallas can compete with those teams for the next few years. So it's kind of like a rebuilding situation for Dallas, in that division. So it may be a blessing in disguise for him that the team didn't renew his contract, and he can go elsewhere and try to build with another organization.
To me, I thought the answers to the Cowboy problems, now there was no space at the time. The only guy that could come in to handle the Joneses, but because of what an outstanding coach he is and to get that team on the right track, would have been a Sean Payton. Because when you see what he's done with Denver, he by far is the coach of the year. With the dead cap money and the roster he had, doubt. Sean Payton is the one guy that could have came in and fixed the Cowboys. Am I wrong in saying that?
But no, you're absolutely right. But the problem is Sean Payton wants power. And when you're dealing with Jerry Jones, you're not going to have a lot of power. Jerry controls the personnel. He controls, everything that goes on with that team. And, and I think that's the problem with that organization. I don't know if you heard Magic Johnson kind of taking a couple shots at Jerry Jones and say, I don't know if it was directly, but indirectly, he was just saying, as an owner, it's our job to hire the people, put them in the right place, trust them to make the personnel decisions. And then we just get out of the way and trust in the guys that we hire. So I wonder if Jerry would just find a good GM and find some guys that he could trust to run Dallas. I think Dallas will be in better shape.
Yeah, there's very few people that could stand up to the Jones family. And the only reason I say Sean Payton is because of the resume. He'd won a Super Bowl, his age, his length of tenure in the NFL. Any of these new guys that they're going to hire, if it's a hot coordinator or somebody coming in, there is no chance that those guys are going to have a say. And within 2 years, they'll probably be fired and out the door, and then the revolving door continues. Although Jerry Jones getting high praise for his cameo appearance on the TV show Landman last week, where he comes on and he speaks about his family. It's the Taylor Sheridan show all about the oil business, starring Billy Bob Thornton. When I saw that, I'm like, whoa, that's Jerry Jones. And he talks about family, and it's more important to be close to family than anything else. All right, wild card weekend. There's nothing really wild. The teams that won. Probably the crazy stat, there was 6 minutes to go in the third quarter of that Baltimore-Pittsburgh game, and Baltimore had already racked up 250 yards rushing. Now, a player's perspective, when you're on the side of the team that just has already rushed for 250 yards, how good of a feeling is that? Because you're probably going to win.
Oh, that's amazing. And I mean, if you play defense, you're just loving it because they're just melting the clock. They're wearing the other team down. So, I mean that has to be a horrible feeling to just not be able to stop the run in a playoff game. It's cold, it's physical. I mean, there's no worse feeling. So I would love to be on the side of that. And I kind of was, felt that way watching Sheets, running the Grey Cup. It's just amazing when you don't have to do much and you just turn around and hand the ball off and let the O-line and running backs do their thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people giving Mike Tomlin a lot of grief. People are calling for his job. I think that was his 10th season above 500, but that's 8 straight playoff losses. But they got a lot of high-paid guys on defense, like TJ Watt, and that it's like 190 plays he hasn't been involved in, not a tackle, not in anything. Their defense let them down. People are blaming Russell Wilson as well. Russell played okay in the second half. First half wasn't great, but Russ did a little cooking. I wouldn't say he had the full stove on, but there was times where he was doing it, but you could just tell. I mentioned this earlier in the show. Love to get your take. The Baltimore-Buffalo game, to me, could be like the Super Bowl, that whoever wins this game could go on. That may be the toughest game that those two may play, whoever ends up winning to go on. Not that we're discounting Kansas City, because you got to be Kansas City. But that Baltimore-Buffalo game,
Kansas City.
I know you have to go to Kansas, but that Baltimore-Buffalo game, kind of for the second round, it's almost like this is almost too good of a game to get in the second round. This should almost be like a division final, not just This
is what it's all about, though. This is when you have the AFC. We know the AFC is loaded. We know that the best quarterbacks are in the AFC. So, this is what it's all about. The top 4 teams going at it. And when the top 4 teams going at it, when they go at it, you're going to see a clash of 2 of the best quarterbacks in the league, and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. So this is a star-studded event that's going to happen this weekend. Hopefully the weather holds up and we don't get a snowy Buffalo weekend and not be able to see, a display of talent that these quarterbacks possess. So I think the entire world is looking forward to this matchup because we don't even talk about it that much, but these are the 2 front runners for the MVP. And, who knows if this will have any meaningful impact on that decision or from the voters. But, especially from the fan side, I think the winner of this game or whoever plays the better game will definitely get the fan nod for MVP.
All right. So Had they not looked so dominant in the second, third, and fourth quarter, the Houston Texans, is there a chance against the Kansas City Chiefs? And keep in mind, Kansas City, to me, they are the best team. They just find ways to win. It's in Kansas City, and the Texans started hot, then they kind of middled off. But by the end of that game against the Chargers, like they were dominant. And D'Amico Ryans, like for whatever it was, there was just no answers out there. If you're a Texans fan, do you even have a glimmer of hope that you're winning? You'd have a chance to win this game against the Chiefs?
You know what? All you can hope for is that Patrick Mahomes is off. I just don't think Houston has the talent to go into Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City and pull off an upset. I like their young talent. I think C.J. Stroud is an amazing quarterback. He's definitely ascending to the top of the ranks for quarterback play in the league. But it's just a different animal. Houston is a warm weather team. Warm weather city. Now you have to go outside and deal with the elements and then, you're playing against Patrick Mahomes and he has Hollywood Brown back. He has Xavier Worthy. He has so much more speed at the wide receiver position that he's had in previous years. And, this is a team that hasn't lost in a while. So, I don't think if I was a betting man, I wouldn't dare put a dime on the Houston Texans, but anything can happen. Mm-hmm. And, Patrick Mahomes tends to hold on to the ball a little bit in the playoffs. He tends to try to fight for extra yards. And so you just never know. Anything can happen. And, you're one hit away from being in a situation where, you don't like to think or wish injuries on anyone. But the way Patrick Mahomes plays in the playoffs is definitely something you have to worry about.
Well, and I think for the Texans, they got to realize that Chris Jones and the Kansas City Chiefs defense, they also too can win football games. Like they too can be dominant and shut it down. The Commanders at the Lions, the Commanders story right now, Jaden Daniels, the Zane Gonzalez field goal last night. They're the feel-good story against the Lions. Hey, if anybody could do it, because I think what the Lions is everybody likes them and they're probably due, but they have to prove it and they have to do it in a playoff game. I would still take the Lions against the Commanders, but I think that Washington is, you said this early in the season, Washington is better than people are giving them credit for.
Absolutely. I've had an opportunity to not personally be around Dan Quinn, but when my brother played for the Falcons, Dan Quinn was the head coach there. And I just know what he brings, the ability to get the most out of his players. And then if you look at what Jaden Daniels is doing in the fourth quarter of these games, if it's close, it's looking like he has that trait of a guy that is just a winner. It's just, I don't want to put him in the category with Brady yet, but it's looking like if it's a close game and Jaden Daniels has the ball, you can pretty much cash it in that he's going to do whatever it takes to get the win. So this is a scary game for me, but I think with Detroit being at home, home field advantage, and just the way that they've been playing offensively and defensively, I think that it'll just be a little bit too much for the Commanders, and they're a young team, the Commanders, and I think they're very happy to make it to this point. But Detroit is a veteran team, and they have Super Bowl aspirations, and I just think there's tiers to playoff teams, and Detroit is just a tier ahead of the Washington Commanders. Yep.
Lions definitely have the talent. The only thing, like you said, can hurt a talented team like that is turnovers and doing themselves in and making their own mistakes. The Vikings taking on the Rams tonight. The winner of that game will go on to play the Eagles, who, I don't think it was a big surprise. They beat Green Bay. It was kind of underwhelming. So tonight, the LA Rams, and I said I'll take Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay in a one-game showdown anytime because they've been there. They're winners. They know how to do it. And Minnesota has been a good news story all year until that Detroit game. And then you saw Sam Darnold on multiple third downs not be able to cash in and score touchdowns. That's the Minnesota Viking team I think a lot of fans are worried about, that not taking advantage of opportunities.
Yeah, you know what? I wouldn't put too much on the way Sam Darnold played against the Detroit Lions. He was due for a bad game. I think he played so well expectations are so high for him. And, he just came back down to earth a little bit. But I think with time, time to prepare, you're looking at this Rams team. I like the Rams and I wouldn't bet against them, but I just think Minnesota has a little bit more talent. They're a little bit more explosive, and they should be the favorites. But whenever you're dealing with a Super Bowl winning coach and quarterback, you should never bet against those guys. But when I look at Minnesota, I've been saying it all season, they're so talented across the board. They have it at every single position, and I think they'll be just a little bit too much for the Rams.
Yeah, well, for the Rams, you're playing with house money. Nobody expected you to be here, so you have nothing, absolutely nothing to lose and no pressure on you at all. So that's probably a great way to go into a football game. All right, Darian Durant, Double Talk, Western Pizza Guest Hotline. What now? Is it for the kids? Is it homework and then, it's the bedtime routine? Like what does Darian Durant do after he gets off the radio here? Like what are we doing?
Yeah, it's dinner time, getting the kids fed and bath and bed. I'm the type of father, I like to get them straight from the bath, put them in the bed. Don't even let them come back downstairs. No entertainment. Yeah, let's go to sleep.
Nice. No iPads, no TV, nothing. Just straight to bed so Dad can watch a little football. I like
Exactly.
that commitment to the game. That'll never go. It's the competitor in Darian. All right, we'll catch up. It's Darian Durant, Double Talk. If you missed any part of our conversation, you can always catch the podcast at sportscage.com. You'll get the full show. And then, Darian, some interesting takes. Intrigued to see how this game is going to... if the Minnesota Vikings do not win tonight, tomorrow when we talk to Arash Madani, the heartache and pain. Arash has been down this road before, like many Vikings fans. It'll be next year country, but it's just like being a Rider fan. It's never an easy pill to swallow, especially when it's fresh. All right, when we take a break, we're going to come back, talk a little AAA hockey. No games tonight, but it was a busy, busy weekend, and we'll get into what's going on in and around Southern Saskatchewan when it comes to the Saskatchewan AAA Hockey League. We'll do that next on the all-new Sports Cage. We're streaming at sportscage.com and on the radio at 620 CKRM.
Join SaskAg today at the Western Canadian Crop Production Show in Saskatoon, January 14th to 16th at Prairieland Park. Brian Young and Doug Faulkner will bring you the very latest in the ag industry live from the show. Watch the stream and all of our latest content at saskagtoday.com. That's the Western Canadian Crop Production Show in Saskatoon, January 14th to 16th at Prairieland Park.
Sponsored by Kloss of America, Shorty Generators, and PlayNow.com.
CoolBet has all the hot games. For all the free-to-play casino games, head to coolbet.co. They've got sports odds, including Saskatchewan senior hockey, plus all the sports odds you can think of. From the ice to the field to the court, CoolBet has you covered. All at your fingertips. No risk, just thrill. So why wait? Get in the game and embrace the unexpected at coolbet.co.
Farmers, grain, poultry, cattle, barn, house, and more. A generator is a necessity. Whether you need to keep operating during an outage, keep water bowls from freezing, grain drying during winter, or need power at a remote location, you need a generator from Shorty Generators. Now is the season to buy or service your generator on the farm to be sure you always have power when and where you need it. And Shorty services all makes and models, including PTO generators. Shorty Generators. Power where you need it. ShortyGenerators.ca.
Dad, I've got a problem.
Let me guess. The solution's in my wallet?
Very funny, Dad. We need better internet.
Look, son, when I was younger...
When you were younger, the dinosaurs still roamed the earth. Can we get wireless internet, or is that too hip for you?
I'll have you know, Junior, that I've already been to Glassers TV, your SaskTel authorized dealer. Wireless internet is on the way.
You might be more hip than I thought, Dad.
Contact Glassers TV, your SaskTel authorized dealer in Moosomin today.
Tiny toppings and cardboard-flavored carbs are not what you get when you order from Western Pizza. But they haven't just perfected pizza. No, my friend, add Caesar salad to that list, along with satisfying garlic toast, baked lasagna, crispy chicken wings, and every other item on their extensive menu. Western Pizza makes food for hungry people. So if you're only kinda sorta hungry, You should invite more people. Western Pizza, big on toppings, big on taste.
Welcome back to the all-new Sports Cage. Get social with us. Follow us on X at Sports Cage. Watch our video stream at sportscage.com and always on the radio at 620 CKRM.
The Saskatchewan Roughriders making headlines today, signing free agent middle linebacker Jameer Thurman to a 2-year contract extension. So there is one more free agent that is now tucked away for the next couple of years. They also signed Malik Carney to a 1-year extension. So Malik Carney will be back with the Riders in 2025. The CFL winter meetings are on in Charlotte, North Carolina. And we heard from Coach Corey Mace earlier. If you missed part of that conversation, you can always catch the podcast at sportscage.com. And before 6, we will get you the conversation between Dave Thomas and head coach and general manager of the Calgary Stampeders, Dave Dickinson. A lot of changes going on in Calgary. It is now the VA show, the Vernon Adams Jr. show. Is he the poor man's Jalen Hurts, or the CFL version of Jalen Hurts? I feel that they have a very similar look and mannerisms and stuff like that. Good team guys, but they're going to be taking over the Stamps, and they've been active in trades. They've made some signings. So Dave and Dave. Coming up before 6. 3 games in the NHL tonight. Calgary Flames are in Chicago to take on the Blackhawks. That game is on Amazon Prime. It's not on Sportsnet at all. So if you don't have Prime, no dice. It's like wrestling. I didn't realize this. Sheriff, Big Al, we knew Monday Night Raw was moving to Netflix, but maybe I just missed this part of the equation. SmackDown is there too. So if you're a wrestling fan and it's WWE, unless you have Netflix, there's no way to watch wrestling anymore in Canada.
Unfortunately. So we're kind of hamstrung in a sense. So that's unfortunate.
Well, we had a good run.
But now, if you want to watch TNA, it's on Sportsnet. But like, not a lot of people like TNA. So.
Exactly. And TNA wrestling. So Al, in the old days, as a kid growing up, and you guys wouldn't know this, you're too young. It was like you discovered a brick of gold when you were flipping channels, and we didn't have that many, and cable wasn't extensive, and you could find an episode of Stampede Wrestling. A fresh episode on a Saturday, man, there was nothing better. There was nothing better. And, if there was a way to bring the family together, me, my dad, and my brother, watching wrestling, it was awesome. Let's see. Panthers, Flyers, Kings, Oilers. Oilers fans, did you hear Eric Francis give you props talking about how the Kings were going to be one of the teams that the Oilers were going to beat on their way to the Stanley Cup Finals this year? Whoa. And Eric watches a lot of hockey. Saskatchewan Midget AAA, no games tonight. There was 5 games last night. The Saskatoon Blazers beat the Notre Dame Hounds 5-0. PA Mintos beat the Saskatoon Contacts 4-3. Estevan Bears beat the Battleford Stars 3-0. The Tisdale Trojans beat the Swift Current Legionnaires 3-2. And the Warman Wildcats beat the Moose Jaw Warriors 6-2. There is one game tomorrow night, which was rescheduled from back on November 23rd. Did we have crazy weather that day, or that couple of days to get that rescheduled? The Saskatoon Contacts will be in Yorkton to play the Maulers. No games in the SJ tonight. It's a busy week. We've got the power rankings up at sportscage.com. You can find out why Melfort is number 1. And already people are texting in that they disagree with that. Well, whatever. You're entitled to your opinion. When you're on sportscage.com, sign up for the daily newsletter, and then you can get the top stories to your inbox every day. Just easy peasy like that. You don't got to worry about it. Prairie Junior Hockey League. There was 3 games on Sunday night. The Delisle Chiefs beat the Carrot River Outback Thunder 5-1. Fort Knox, man, they got a good team in Fort Capel. Beat Assiniboia 4-2, and the Saskatoon Royals beat the Saskatoon Wesleys 4-1. The league is off until Wednesday. There's going to be 2 games, Delisle and Saskatoon to play the Wesleys, and the Regina Silver Foxes in Assiniboia to play the Rebels. And we're going to try and get head coach Matt Scott from Fort Knox on the show later this week. Colson, how are we doing for time here? Almost time to take a break? Okay, we're going to take a break. And then we're going to come back. We're going to wrap the show. And then we're going to give you the conversation between Dave Thomas and Dave Dickinson, GM and head coach of the Calgary Stampeders from the CFL meetings that are going on in Charlotte, North Carolina. Stick close. This is the all-new Sports Cage. You're streaming, watching us on X and at sportscage.com, on our YouTube channel, and on the radio at 620 CKRM.
Act fast when wildlife damage happens. Don't wait. Delaying may impact your claim. All Saskatchewan producers may be eligible to receive funding for both preventative measures and wildlife damage concerns. To learn more about wildlife damage prevention and compensation options, contact your local SCIC office or call 1-888-935-0000. SCIC, here at every turn.
We want your business on board for the Harvard Media online auction. It's easy. All you've got to do is provide items like gift cards, experiences, services, or whatever cool product you have. And in exchange, we'll give you a world-class marketing campaign. No entry fee or cash outlay. Just a good old trade deal. That hammer could be coming down for you. Just hit up harvardmedia.com and join in on all the excitement. Terms and conditions apply.
Meet your new favorite shade of green. At Nick Service, we offer the Fendt 500 Vario Series tractor that's tailor-made for your farm. Get better stability, ease of use, and comfort with one tractor. Whether you're feeding, tilling, baling, or hauling, this series is built for your farm. Experience up to 163 horsepower with this multi-purpose tractor. Visit Nick's Service in Emerald Park or go to nickservice.com to get a quote on the Fendt 500 Vario Series.
Welcome back to the all-new Sports Cage. Connect with the show. Call 1-866-767-0620 or text 306-936-6262.
All right, it's the final segment of the show. Thanks to Colson and Big Al for running things behind the scenes today. Appreciate it. Over this Christmas break, like a lot of us, when there's downtime, it's easy to get into some rabbit holes. And a couple of things. I hadn't realized it's been decades since I watched, but because it's Christmas vacation and sometimes there was no sports on, I found myself watching The Young and the Restless and General Hospital again. And I got to tell you, it's as good as ever. I'm just as hooked. Like, Nick Newman is Jeff Bezos. I'm sorry, but Nick Newman and The Young and the Restless, now he's a titan of industry. Is there any better young business people out there than a Nick Newman? And Victor, just the class. And the other thing too, I rewatched the Johnny Manziel special on Netflix. Colson, can we bring up this meme? This popped up. I think this is this is an anniversary date of this today. Johnny Manziel, I think this was in Cleveland. And keep in mind, we all know how it turned out. It didn't really turn out, but he's humbled himself. He realizes he made a lot of mistakes. This was a beauty quote. Johnny Manziel said, "I don't have a drinking problem. The team has a problem with me drinking. There's a big difference." And at the time, that was totally him. But if you see him now, he's got a couple of podcasts and he speaks. I believe he's a changed person. And of course, he had just a cup of coffee in the NFL and then a half a cup of coffee in the CFL before he was out. It's worth if you haven't seen it, it's worth a watch. And it's been a while, it's worth a rewatch. All right, we're going to wrap on this. The CFL winter meetings were on in Charlotte, North Carolina, and Dave Thomas had a chance to catch up with Calgary Stampeder head coach and GM Dave Dickinson.
Head coach and general manager of the Calgary Stampeders, Dave Dickinson, is our guest. And Coach, first and foremost, let's give you an opportunity to react and respond. We haven't heard from you or the Calgary Stampeders when it comes to some condemning comments that were made by Kadeem Carey, former running back of your organization, now that just won a Grey Cup title with the Toronto Argonauts. The comments were disparaging towards your franchise. Your reaction?
That's really not a story I want to start out with anyway. I'm good. Our organization's in good shape. We have already, as an organization, looked to address anywhere where we can improve. And we feel like we've got an idea and a plan to do that. We traded for Flo, and I had a good conversation with Flo. And some things when guys, as long as, like you said, realistic about kind of their time and honesty is fine with me. But I'm comfortable with what we do and comfortable with our organization, and we'll leave it at that.
Coach Dickinson, maybe we'll shift to your general manager role for a moment. You made a huge splash late last week trading Cameron Judge to Toronto to bring back a defensive lineman that you had in your fold and was with the Argos in Flo Oromalade.
I do think you always get excited to bring in what you consider a game-changing player. But when you do these trades, usually you got to get rid of and trade that same type of guy. And I didn't take any enjoyment from our conversation with Cam Judge. I think he's a great player. He just had a baby, and I don't take it lightly dealing with people's lives, but it is part of what we do. It is January, and I felt like it made our team better and different, and felt like pass rush with some speed, and the type of player Flo is, there's not a lot of them like that. And we decided to make the deal. I'm a 1-for-1. Like everything else, you look at salaries, medical history, all that sort of stuff. But two really quality football players. We just went with the D-line over the linebacker.
Obviously, everyone wants to progress and move forward, and holding the dual roles as you do, a number of people have thought perhaps you might be stretched a little thin. But when it comes to you being the general manager of the Calgary Stampeders, what are you learning?
Yeah, so, I had a great mentor, a couple great mentors in Wally Buono and John Huffnagel, but Huff I've worked with in the football sense. I feel very confident that when I speak with John that I'm getting a wealth of knowledge that not that many people can provide. I definitely use his viewpoint and take his opinion, weigh it very heavily. But essentially it still comes down to if you think you can make your team better. I use Brendan Mahoney as my assistant general manager, and Brendan does a lot of the talk with the agents. I need that because a lot of times I feel like it's just around and around you go and nothing gets done. I'm more like to close deals. If you want to do it, let's do it. If not, I don't want to waste a bunch of time. This is not fantasy football. This is regular, real football. So when you make decisions, there's lots of things that go into it. I think as an organization, we need to increase our presence in the U.S. We need to get to know more and more scouts. We get to know more and more contacts. We need guys excited to come to Calgary and the CFL. And that's something we've looked into the offseason, trying to get a bigger footprint in the U.S. And we're doing that. COVID just changed everything. And for us, unfortunately, it didn't go our way. We need to change, and we're going to do that.
A number of changes made this offseason from personnel to the coaching staff. Would you suggest that this is a cultural shift moving forward this year in Calgary?
In my opinion, it's not cultural shifts because the first thing we do, and I'm going to be honest with you, we treat people as humans and that we are very honest and fair. And the culture is actually more than fine in Calgary. In fact, I think we have good culture. But the problem is when you don't win, it's a winning business, and whether you're a good person or whether you still are doing the right things, if you're not winning, you have to change. And that's really been the thing, is that there's other good coaches, there's other good philosophies, there's other ways to do it. Why don't we take a look and bring some of those guys in and trust that they can enhance what's already here. And as a head coach, general manager, I have to look in the mirror and I have to approach things differently because it wasn't working the last 2 years.
Now back to Flo Oromalade, and one of the things that he was criticizing the franchise about a tad was the fact that you were reluctant to make the big move. What was your response to that? Have you talked to him about that, Dave Dickinson?
Yeah, I did talk to him about it. And he kind of was like, yeah, coach, said what I said. It was the truth. He didn't like trash on the organization and say that we aren't good people and that we're not a winning club. He just said in the past we hadn't had to make that splash. And hey, Flo's looking forward to coming back. I mean, I'd like him to talk, but I know it because I've spoke with him. He also isn't. He wants to kind of get be the guy and be the reason maybe we can get back to one of those winning ways. I mean, he's got great leadership. He is a great person. He works extremely hard. He's a guy, I think, that has to be a central voice in our room. So, no, I think it's just like you said, if people just, it's not like we're trying to jump on anyone or be honest with things. We do have a difference of opinion, at least I do, with some comments, but for the most part, as an organization, we need to hear where we need to be better, and we're trying to address it, and we think we're doing some good things. Calgary, though, we're in a need of a little bit of a shot in the arm. We need some juice. We need some good things to happen for us. The whole city as a whole, I think maybe we got into those mode where expect winning ways, and when it doesn't happen, it definitely is a little bit of an eye opener and can bring excitement. So I think we've done some good things. Hopefully we can continue to do that.
Experience counts, and Louis Dreyfus Yorkton has over 100 years combined with our marketing team. If you need to move canola before seeding, we have space, and our driveway is open from 6 a.m. till 7:30 p.m. Monday to Friday. LDC has off-grade canola options with paper blending on moisture and green. Plus, we also accept heated canola. Call today and find out why producers trust Louis Dreyfus in Yorkton. 877-782-8882 or visit LDCYorkton.